Hello everyone, welcome back to Beyond the Veil Tarot and Astrology. Hopefully you guys are doing well. Happy Saturday. Stoked to be back doing some live astrology readings on the channel. Do me a favor, if you're new to my channel, make sure you're subscribed, give me a thumbs up. And hello to everybody in the chat. How's it going? Hopefully you guys are doing well. It's Saturday night. Happy almost holidays to everybody who celebrates. We are going to be doing readings this evening, and boy, oh boy, we have a lot of people who are in the queue, so we will probably take people signing up probably for like the next 15-20 minutes. So if you want to get a reading, definitely get in. Hey everybody, how's it going? Hey Rachel, hey Shar, hey Sharon, Coco, Christina, Ultraviolet, Sarah, Skyler, I got you. What's up, Kurt? Happy new moon in Capricorn, everybody. It's been a wild one. The new moon was exactly on my natal Uranus in the 4th house, and surprisingly, I'm in a new house. I know you guys can't really tell, but I'm in a new space. So it's been a very, very, very busy week for me. I've been creating all the content in advance for you guys because I was moving. So I am now back to my usual schedule. Thank you very much. It's been wild. I'm glad it happened right before the Mercury retrograde, because the retrograde is going through my 4th house. So I was like, okay, this is crazy, but let's do it. But yeah, we ended up making it happen. Yeah, the room's it's still a little hollow. We're still kind of filling it out. So we might need to put some foam in here or something, but you can definitely hear the difference. I hear everything is bigger in Texas. The room maybe not so much. All right, so those of you guys who are new to my channel, we are going to be doing live readings. So this evening will be astrology. I'm a Western astrologer. We're doing readings basically on a donation base. So for those of you guys who can't really swing getting a full reading, or you don't want to wait 2 or 3 months, this is a great chance to ask me a question. You can ask anything in regards to, if there's an aspect in your natal chart that you have questions about, you want to better understand, if you're wondering what's going on with a specific transit, if you just want to know how this new moon in Capricorn is affecting you, all of these things are totally cool. Please keep your questions to 1 question per reading. I would appreciate it, just so we can get through everybody this evening. There's a QR code right here. You can scan that QR code. It is going to take you to my PayPal. Pretty much everybody except for 1 person has gotten the hang of it, so that's good. We'll be able to keep it moving. When you make the donation there, it's $40 US dollars for an astrology question, $65 if you have questions about sinistry, that's relationship astrology. These are going to be mini readings for everybody. If you want to be more generous and if you want to give a tip or donate, you're welcome to do that too. It's always appreciated. It goes back to the production for this channel. Please, in the memo, put your question. I also need to know your exact date. So that is the month, day, year, the time, AM and PM, and the city, state, and location of where you were born. Please give that to me. Spell out the month if you can, because I live in America. I know some of you guys live elsewhere and you do it a little bit differently. And we're looking for Tonga. Tonga on PayPal. So you made a donation for a reading, but I did not get any of your information. So we need to have that information if we can get that from you. And as always, I take my level 3 subscribers first. So I know that we've got somebody in here. Skyler said they wanted to get in there and get a reading. We've got Sarah, who's also a member, so we'll get you. Coco, are you looking to get your monthly reading? Let me know. I know you're a member too. Any of the level 3 people, let me know. Still Ripples, if you are Tonga, can I get your birth information, please? So we can plug that in. All right, Coco. Let me plug you in really quick, and then we will get started. How's everybody doing? What are you guys doing to celebrate for the holidays? $12:57 p.m. so we're going to do Skyler, Coco, Sarah. Thank you. I appreciate it, Tonga. Let me get your info in. And like I said, we're not going to probably leave the queue up so long because we have a lot of people. All right, 220.75. All right, so let's go ahead. Just so everybody knows, there is a, like I said, a longer queue, but I will give you my running list right now of who I have. We've got Michael, Casa, Rustica, Vera, Darcy, Katie, Free Spirit, Stephanie, Sharon, Tonga, Crystal. We've got Spaghetti and Christina. I do that every time. All right, but I got you guys, just so you guys know. What's up, Rome? Merry Christmas. He's going to come back for the full moon. I don't blame you. This new moon, the next 48 hours is pretty colorful. Pretty colorful, I will say that. All right, so let's go ahead and get started with my level 3 people. We'll do Skyler, and then Sarah, and then Coco. Thank you guys for being members. I appreciate it. If you guys like my content, you can always join my memberships, and if you join level 3, you're going to get a reading once a month. It's a great way to support the channel, help me keep creating content, and also check in with me as necessary. Skyler says, hey, I was wondering if I could use my reading. My birthday is June. Okay. You just would like a general reading. Cool. So I will talk to you. Let's turn this down. This is a little bright. I will talk to you about what we've got going on here for the new moon. So pretty cool energy, especially if you're a Taurus rising, because it's going to play very nicely with your ascendant. But not only that, the new moon is actually at 1 degrees of Capricorn. It happened earlier today, but that new moon was conjunct your natal Uranus too, your 1989 baby. And it was in a trine to your natal moon. So some of the aspects that it's making is rather friendly with your chart in general. So a new moon for a Taurus rising, technically whole sign wise belongs to your 9th, but really was in your 8th house. So you're planting seeds in regards to your beliefs, in regards to your financial well-being. There's some sense of transformation that comes through the 8th house, but it's working hard to be able to focus on bringing in more resources, having more support. Whenever you have a new or a full moon conjunct a planet, it amplifies the energy of that planet. So for a Taurus rising, whole sign wise, right? Uranus rules your 10th house of career. So long story short, this is about planting seeds of intention in terms of transforming your career, your overall life purpose, and bringing in more stability and more security. So this can come under the guise of, I want to get paid more. I want to get better bonuses or benefits. I want to be able to make my money work for me. I want to transform what I'm doing out in the world. It will take about 6 months to see this fully mature. So whatever is kind of going down now is planting those seeds before you get to the full moon. That will be in Capricorn 6 months from now, summer of 2023. So set in your mind a 6-month goal in terms of totally changing or transforming what you're doing out in the world. Likely because it trines your moon, and also because it's making trines to your ascendant. It's making it possible for you to feel more comfortable, right? The moon is about emotional security. The moon in Taurus is, do I have all the things that I need? And then the trines to your ascendant is basically telling me that you are coming into alignment with being and feeling more productive, more stable, or more secure, right? Okay, so besides that, it still does belong to the stellium of planets that you have in Capricorn that are in your 9th house in general. So Uranus, Saturn, Neptune, that conjunction was kind of happening in 1989, at least from the summer all the way to the beginning of 1990. So you're going to get a little bit of that flavor of radically changing and transforming or planting new seeds of intention when it comes to what you believe in, where you're traveling to, what you're learning, whether or not you want to publish something, write something, if you want to take a course, if you want to study something, if you want to become a teacher. So I'm wondering like what's been coming up for you the last couple days, just coming up to this period. I will also say that the Mercury retrograde for you is also very personal because that retrograde is going to be kind of tearing through your Saturn and your natal Neptune. So this can bring opportunities for you to go, how can I learn how to do something different? Or how do I bring in a teacher? Or how do I find a mentor? There's a sense of wanting to kind of tweak and perfect something. For Taurus rising chart, you know, Mercury is connected to Virgo, your 5th house. So I could also see this as you being like, how do I take teaching or educating or coaching beyond just being a hobby? Like, do I get a certification? Do I start training people? It could be something like that that's setting up for you too. Definitely looking to become a mindset coach and create a course. Bingo. So this new moon, right? And it's so good because Capricorn is about our goals, is giving you the opportunity to do that. I like that you use the term mindset. I also like that the new moon trines your moon in the 12th house. So I feel like it may have a connection to meditation or working with like grounding techniques or being in the body, being present, looking at working with finances and health and wellness as a state of mind, right? And like getting connected to that on a other level. So I would look into like what 12th house things you can bring in to make that happen, if that makes sense. Beyond that, you know, it also has like this full moon effect because you have a Cancer sun at 6 degrees. So you were born with that natal sun opposed Uranus. Nobody can tell you nothing. There is a sense in your life of just your belief systems and what you're learning and training. You go through cycles of like changing what your beliefs are, right? Or leveling up or going through processes of programs or reading books and like changing your philosophy on life. That's the Sun Uranus on the third, ninth house axis. So when the moon, when the new moon happened, it opposed your sun. So it also had this like crazy full moon effect that was like, okay, the seeds that I'm planting are about a total change in how I connect and communicate with other people. So it's opening the door in the 3rd house for you to start courses, for you to like start a program, start a podcast, a blog, maybe even a channel, right? And it's highlighting the sun. So it's also saying you got to get out of your comfort zone. Maybe it's about kind of being a little bit more exposed or feeling a little bit more exposed and showing a little bit more of like your private life. So it might also be about you talking about your process to kind of getting there and becoming a coach and also integrating a little bit more of like your spirituality into it in some way, shape, or form. Really cool. Definitely aspected your chart a lot. Yeah, you're looking at your podcast. Cool. Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, just also kind of food for thought. If you're born in 1989, you're in a 10th house annual perfection year. So when planets go through Aquarius, when you see like the sun enter into Aquarius, when Pluto goes into Aquarius in the spring, when Venus and Mercury and all these planets go through Aquarius, you know, January, February, you will find that like that's like the real show up point, right, in your life. So it's really important for you to be really focusing on getting all this stuff up and running because the 10th house year is all about your career. The Lord is also Saturn or Uranus, and this is where you just had that new moon. So super, super, super potent year ahead, especially in terms of building on your career. Like many other Taurus risings, I'm sure you're really excited to see Pluto change signs and what it may potentially bring you in terms of totally changing your identity out in the field, right? Out in the world. And Saturn's hitting your north node. So there is this kind of showing up for your destiny that's going on right now. And I'm really curious to see, you know, like other people who were born in 1989, because there's that stellium of planets in Capricorn and then the North Node in Aquarius, all ruled by Saturn, it has been like a 6, almost 7 year Saturn's return. So if you reflect on what's happened over the last 5, 6, 7 years, it was all to bring you to this moment, and now it's kind of wrapping up. So you're going to finally start reaping the rewards or getting the fruit of your Saturn's return right come the turn of the year. So very exciting. I'm excited to see how that plays out for you. And I would say if you haven't already set your new moon intentions, tonight and tomorrow, you guys can still do this, because we're going to have the moon that's still going to be in Capricorn. If anything, it's only going to get easier because it comes into conjunction with Venus. It's also going to trine the North Node in Uranus. So tonight, tomorrow, great times to be doing anything, including the element of earth, crystals, herbs, anything to get in your body to help you set intentions with this new moon can be really, really, really powerful. So I encourage you to do that. Good luck, Skyler. Good luck, good luck. No, the reading does not have to be on the new moon. Let's see. Thank you, Dewey. I'll go through the list in just a second. What's up, Sonia? How's it going? Hey, Tiara. I'm doing sinistry too. I'm going to leave the queue open for 5 more minutes. Then we're going to close it out. So if you guys want to get a reading, scan the QR code somewhere around here. Send all of your information in the memo, please. It's down here. That way I can put your guys' chart in. Sorry to do last call so quickly, but I mean, we got some people. Thank you, Lise. I will get you on there. Okay, so let's do, we've got, who else do we have? I know we have Coco, Sarah, you've come back. I'm following your story. I remember last time you were here, we were talking about this crazy whirlwind romantic connection that you had with someone. All right, so let's pull you up. So I have you, May 20th, 88. He is January 1st, 86. And she's born in Australia. He's born in London. New and intense connection. We're looking at engagement and me moving to him in London in 2023. Okay, got it. Got it. Thank you, Tiara. I will get you. Just send me your info, please. Drop that info in the chat and your question. Sinistry-wise between you two, so we've got his natal Uranus and Mercury on your ascendant, so he stimulates that Sag rising and gets you thinking about what is possible and being more optimistic about the future and possibly traveling suddenly. His Uranus in opposition to your Mercury is also kind of interesting, because I see this as it being something where it's like there's been a back and forth. It activates your natal mutable square, so it makes changes with you, with your home, with your relationships, with your career across the board. You guys have a Mars-Pluto conjunction in the 12th house. That's kind of sexy. And he's got Juno in hard aspect to your sun. The one thing that I would say, and I know that I've said this before, okay, but I'm going to keep saying this, is that you're a Sag rising and you have Neptune that is pretty much on your North Node heading for your IC. On one hand, that does seem to suggest, like, yes, you could be relocating and going to a foreign place. Yes, especially, because Saturn's coming into Pisces next year. However, you have Mars retrograde right now in your 7th house, and it's activating eclipses, so I'm not surprised that it's bringing in somebody that you were meant to kind of connect with. It just dings your entire chart. And with a Mars retrograde in the 7th house, it can bring people in very quickly. Now, I'm not saying that this isn't a good thing for a Sag rising. Mars rules your whole sign 5th of true love, so it can be you suddenly meet somebody and it's like boom, boom, boom. It happens fast. My issue is that there's not a lot of clarity throughout this transit because of the squares to Neptune. So there can be a lot of, I'm going to move to you, or you're going to move to me, only to kind of like realize or find out that it's not going to be as easy as you think, or it's not going to play out the way that you're anticipating, or that there is some fuzziness or haziness revolving around what is that city or country going to be like? Are we going to have the same taste in our living situation? Are we going to still like each other when we're living together? All that stuff. I would still encourage you to just hang tight until closer to March before making any big decisions when it comes to giving notice at a job, or, not renewing a lease or anything like that. Wait till you get out of the Neptune squares. it makes sense that there's a connection here. I mean, you guys have his natal Venus conjunct your Neptune and also conjunct your Saturn. So that can be very binding and it can be commitment oriented. You guys do have Venus opposed Venus. So that can also bring each other in quite closely. His moon trines your Jupiter. So that's really great for emotional connection. I also feel like he's going to be somebody who is going to really inspire you to take charge and to take initiative in your life. And he'll also be somebody who will give you really good advice when it comes to your career and your work life. I am a little curious about their Saturn in opposition to your Sun. And I think that it has manifested already as you guys connect and you're in two different places. But once you come together, my question is are you guys going to do well being together all of the time? Because there's a lot of oppositions in this chart. And oppositions don't mean that relationships don't work. It's just in sinistry, it means that there's either distance or that there's challenges in learning how to meet in the middle. Sometimes an opposition in a sinistry chart can create enough friction that it pushes you to grow beyond and out of your comfort zone. But the Venuses in opposition, you guys are going to have different preferences. Thankfully, you guys have, your Venus trine his Mars. And then we've got his Mars that is conjunct Pluto. The Mercury opposed Mercury, I feel like, can represent two different ways of communicating, and he does have a debilitated Mercury. So Mercury and Sag, especially conjunct Uranus, there can be a sense of like, making extreme plans to relocate and, have somebody move to him or vice versa. So I would say like, it's important that you're sussing all of this out and you're making sure that it's going to be reliable. I also think that like a Venus Neptune Sun in Capricorn man, I mean, he's super earthy with all of these trines that he's got going on. He's a Cancer rising, so the Mercury retrograde that's happening in his astrology is actually happening in his 7th house, and it's going retrograde over his Sun. So to me, it seems like there's a lot of back and forth that he's having with a partner, a potential partner, about timing and planning when it comes to relationships. Once all of those planets come into conjunction with Pluto when the retrograde is over, closer to February, there's going to be a lot more clarity in this relationship. The 12th house is what I consider like the blind spot. So one thing I would say about this also is for him to have, I'm not really worried so much about his Mars conjunct your Pluto, but Saturn and Juno in the 12th house, it does kind of talk about there being some karma revolving around past life relationships and like marriage. So it's interesting that you guys connect and then you're like, okay, well, we got to be together because we're in two different countries. And if we do that, we have to get married. You guys are talking about getting married. I would not plan on getting married. I would not put money down. I would not commit to anything. I wouldn't do anything until after Mars is out of the square with Neptune. The retrograde ends around mid-January, so Mars goes direct in your 7th house, and perhaps maybe that was just enough to bring this person in. And then it comes out of the square closer to March. You potentially moving and being in another place. I mean, Saturn's going into Pisces next year in the spring, so I think it's going to be sometime around like March. And when Saturn goes into Pisces and it conjuncts your Mars, it'll conjunct your Mars and then it'll go into Pisces. Perhaps you're talking about the process of going to visit him or him coming to visit you then preemptively before you make a bigger change and a bigger move. You really have, though, until Saturn hits your North Node in 2024 to really facilitate and make that happen. But what I'm getting at is when Saturn hits your North Node in the 4th, you want to be grounded, and it's going to square your Mercury and oppose your South Node. So you don't want it to be a situation where you're like, okay, I moved here, I gave up my life, I quit my job to come and be with this person and be in a relationship, and then, the relationship may not be all that it's cracked up to be, because Saturn will square Mercury, which rules relationships, and oppose the South Node, which rules career. So it does tell me that if you end up moving, you're going to be the one making the sacrifice. You're going to leave, you're going to make a change in your job, or you're going to leave your friends and your family. You're going to be in a foreign place, Pisces in the 4th. And you can work through the square. I just want to really make sure that this is the one. And we don't want to make any life-changing decisions when there's a retrograde in our 7th house, especially Mars. But retrogrades bring up karmic energies. So, it's no coincidence that this person's coming in and then all of a sudden there's all these plans that's happening during the retrograde. We just take action once it's gone direct. But Venus, Saturn, I like that. Even his Venus conjunct your Neptune, I like that. I just feel like with his Uranus and Mercury on your ascendant, it's stimulating wanting to bring you guys together because it opposes your Mercury. But when you guys actually come together and you play house and you feel each other out, is it a good match? That is the question. So I'm wondering, have you spent time with him in person a bit or not, you know? And right now Mars is also stationing on his natal Chiron. So for him to be a Cancer rising, you know, your moon, your Venus on his ascendant, lovely. But Mars going back and forth over Chiron in his 12th tells me that he's trying to figure out what direction he's going in. He's still healing. He's still taking time, you know, to be by himself, and he's reflecting, or he's thinking about making a different career change, or he's shifting gears in terms of what he wants to do professionally. As a Cancer rising, it's going to be a good next couple of years for him. Eclipses in his 10th, Jupiter through his 10th. So there's definitely going to be some positive things coming up in terms of him being more successful and independent, and possibly even kind of spearheading some new entrepreneurial things in his career. And I think he's been through a long road as a Cancer rising with some of his relationship stuff. I think he's cleared out a lot of stuff recently because of Saturn. I think Jupiter going into his natal 9th house can be really great for, you know, commitments and relationships. But I want to make sure that what he's telling you is what you're actually going to get. The only thing that kind of rubs me the wrong way is his Mercury-Uranus square the nodes. So I would encourage you to talk to him more, spend time with him if you can, have him visit you or you visit him. And if you're going to make a more serious commitment in terms of relationships, I anticipate you're going to be doing that April or May of 2023, right around the time of the eclipses. Okay? Good luck. I like that together you guys are a full moon. He's a Capricorn sun and you're a Cancer moon. Readings are closed, so anybody who sends anything now will not get a reading, unfortunately, because we got a ton of people in the queue. Let me see. Alexis is the last one. Okay, so we also have here Coco. Let's pull up Coco's chart. Coco says, looking to see when my financial situation will improve. December 1st, 89. 12:57 p.m. in Chicago. Pisces rising, sun in Sag, and moon in Capricorn. So that new moon was conjunct your natal Uranus, also bringing you opportunity to set the stage for new career and work stuff. You know, for you in general, this Mercury retrograde is pretty wild. It's also tearing through all your Capricorn stuff, and that's really important because to me it looks like, because it's dropping through your 11th house and into your 10th house, it's about reevaluating your relationship with your career. Who you're working for, where you're working, what you're doing, who you're serving, if it's time to make a change, right? And obviously with a new moon conjunct Uranus, which is connected to Aquarius 12th house, there's some anxiety about what's going on in terms of the future with your career. However, money is ruled by Venus, your 2nd house, and you've got Mercury stopping, getting ready to go retrograde, actually, on top of your natal Venus. So the next couple of days are really important. When Mercury goes retrograde, it's going to be with Venus. So it's going to be, you're going to have a Venus return on the 29th, and Mercury will go retrograde. That literally means I'm reevaluating what are my goals when it comes to money and resources and finances. What are my goals when it comes to this? How can I bring in more? Who can help me? Who can I align with to help me make more in terms of resources? So pay attention to the 29th of December because there's going to be some goodies there. When the moon and Uranus come together and they trine this on January 1st, it makes me feel like you're possibly looking at career changes or new work opportunities or joining professional associations to help you bring in more. And like the other 1989 people, you're going to see this because your birthday is coming up here soon. you're going to be in a 10th house year. So once you had your birthday, hello, it's the end of December. So this is a really important time basically because this retrograde is taking place in your 10th house. But when will finances improve in general? You're looking at when we start seeing aspects between Venus and, let's see, it's got to come out of a square with Uranus. I definitely think that if you take the initiative to make some changes in the new year, you'll physically start seeing changes when Venus enters into Taurus. So that's looking like right around the mid-March period, especially because it's going to start trining with your midheaven and your natal Uranus, so around the 3rd week of March. And when Venus comes into conjunction with Uranus and it's trining planets in your 11th house, really mid-March on is when things start to get better. Then you're going to start seeing eclipses that are going to happen in your natal whole sign second. And the Sun-Jupiter conjunctions are also going to make this really kind of pop, especially because it's trining your midheaven and it's trining all your planets in Capricorn. So it's looking like it's going to be right around mid-March. Let's see, working towards being fully self-employed. Yeah, I mean, you know, I would say for you, this is challenging because Jupiter right now is sitting on your ascendant and it's coming out of the square with your Sun and your Mercury. Now it's squaring all your Capricorn. So, you know, for you, Capricorn belongs to the 11th house. This tells me joining groups, starting groups, institutions, affiliations with other companies or other people in the field is kind of the way to go. Uranus, Neptune, Saturn, Moon, and Venus all belong to your 11th house. So what have you learned through the Saturn transit in Capricorn, right? You've learned that you have to socialize with some people. You have to connect with some people, that you have to be a part of a group initiative. So it might be about starting a group, starting a Facebook group, starting a YouTube group or a channel or like a blog or something where you can interact with other people, or maybe you're going to be working for a company where you're giving readings with other people. That's something else that you could do. But I think financially you're going to see the physical changes when we get planets coming into earth signs. And I think the way to do this is for you to look at joining some professional associations to try to really expand the best that you can. And when Jupiter then, because Jupiter is going to fly through Aries, it's only going to be there for like 4 or 5 months. Then it's going to go into Taurus, and this is about physical expansion. And what you're going to see is as soon as it's trining your natal Uranus, you are doing even better. So that's going to be the end of May, the beginning of June. So I would advise you to try to see if there's a possible way for you to like work with a group, depending on what it is that you want to do independently. You might find like a company that's like hiring readers, or you can do a collaboration with a couple friends, or you can like create a group online and maybe even do like group readings. That might be something that could really work for you. But you're going to see from March through June, that's when everything is going to pick up. Yeah. And a lot of socialize with a sugar daddy. Spoken like a true Venus in Capricorn. I would say still though that the Mercury retrograde for you is so important because it's going to, like I said, it's going to hit your Venus, your Moon, and your Saturn, and it's going to station right around your Neptune. So 1989 people, pay attention because there's a lot of things that are coming up for you right now with this retrograde. Mercury rules your 7th house of clients and also partnerships. It also rules your 3rd house of communication. So I'm wondering if it's a matter of like putting some feelers out there and seeing if you can do some collaborations with some other people to be able to kind of like, you know, see if you can kind of finagle some opportunities to bring some more money in general. But I think you're really going to like Jupiter moving into your 2nd house, especially because your 2nd house cusp is at an 8. So it's making money through occultism type of things or money from other people. So you really hit that sweet spot right around the mid to the end of June period. Go set some intentions for this new moon. Very important for you because it's conjunct Uranus. So there's a need for you to be focusing on not what's not happening, not what's not manifesting, but where you are going, right? Focus on the future. Uranus, it's all about the future. And it's like the magician planet too. So it's like, you know, if you envision it, if you believe it, if you think about it long enough and you focus on what's actually coming, it'll help the process along a lot faster. Hopefully that's helpful for you. We've got Tiara. Let me plug you in here. And that was 4285. There we go. Okay, cool. So I've got you here April 2nd, 85, 10:08 a.m. She says, whatever pops out at you, wondering what's going on with my love life. Oh, Tiara, thank you. Awesome. So excited for you, Coco. That's really awesome. Hey, Kayla, how you doing? Sounds like you're feeling it too. Cap rising. Okay, so there we go. All right, Tiara. So you are a Cancer rising, Sun in Aries, and your moon is in Virgo. Well, what pops out at me? Well, just the amount of activity that's hanging out in your 7th house. No big deal. There's like a Capricorn party going on in your 7th house, which is very colorful for Cancer risings because there's just this emphasis on other people. You know, for Aries, you're going to hear like, oh, it's all about your career and hard work and changing direction with your profession. And there can be some truth to that, but it's in your 7th house. So it's telling me like how you're reevaluating whether or not you're willing to put work into your relationships, or working with clients, or collaborating with business partners. So little uncomfortable for Aries, to be honest with you. You've got Jupiter in your sign, so it's bringing you lots of goodies, lots of good opportunities in terms of your career. Honestly, Jupiter, I have found, shows you fragments of the future and just how sweet the future can be. So I think that Jupiter tearing through your Sun and your Mercury and your Venus is going to give you a lot more enthusiasm and a lot more confidence when it comes to your professional life. And it's all going to start squaring your 7th house. So a lot of the new beginnings coming for you professionally are not going to show up until like March or April, but it's being initiated now through relationships that you have with people professionally. 7th house can be clients, it can be your one-on-one relationships that are romantic, it can be your business partners, your mentors, it's even your astrologer. So I've noticed so many times people are getting readings when they have either a lunar transit through the 7th, or they have like a lot of activity in the 7th. So it's perfect time for you to get counsel. I would say for the Aries energy in your chart, ask yourself what's uncomfortable right now in relationships. Like, where are you not necessarily seeing eye to eye with other people, but like, where is there a sense of some people being too much work? And a Mercury retrograde here, yeah, it can bring people back. That's not my biggest focus. My biggest focus is actually today and tomorrow. As the moon touches Venus and Mercury in your 7th house, it's where are you learning to communicate and show up and be more responsible in relationships, or who's committing to you, who's supporting you, who's helping you build something. And yeah, it's going to square all your planets in the 10th house, and I know you want to do it alone, but there is a sense of you having to work with other people, right? And if there, I've just been thinking of that with regards to Blast of the Past. What I've noticed about Capricorn and Aries, because this is a closing square in your chart, so it's basically, you know, coming to square all of your 10th house, you're in the driver's seat. Capricorn being in the 7th and Aries being in the 10th means that you're the one in charge. So it's up to you to decide if you want to initiate, you know, contact with people, if you want to work with people, if you want to allow people into your life. And I like the fact that all these planets are trining your Mars, it's trining your North Node. You just recently had your nodal return. I think you're realizing that not all relationships have to be romantic, that it can be about platonic relationships as well. The new moon trined your natal moon, so that's nice as well because it opened things up for communication. So it's making it possible for you to communicate with other people more clearly. But nevertheless, I think that there is some agitation going on with your 10th house and deciding whether or not you want to kind of like open up that can of worms of even kind of interacting with people from the past. Probably right around the time like Venus touches on Pluto or when the Mercury retrograde's over, you're going to realize that you don't need relationships as the vessel to teach you how to stand up for yourself, right? Like you don't need those lessons through relationships anymore. You don't need people to push your buttons or not treat you well or challenge you to get you to stand up for yourself, because that's generally what these Capricorn placements do, just so you know. And it's going to be hard not to put yourself out there and not be seen, right? Because you've got eclipses in your 10th, Jupiter's that's going to be moving through your 10th. In a lot of ways, the visibility though will be coming much more in March and April. That's when you're really going to be kind of seen for what you're doing. You got eclipses that are going to be taking place in your whole sign 10th house. It's going to be on like Donkey Kong. And when the nodes move to North Node in Aries and South Node in Libra, it's going to square Pluto in your 7th house. So that tells me that you have to be with partners that are on your level. You have to be with partners that are encouraging the person that you're going to be becoming. You are learning to step into your much more courageous, kind of fierce, authentic, feisty, independent self. And you can't be with people who are going to be threatened by that or who don't respond well to your assertiveness. So for many Cancer risings, when Pluto retrogrades back to Capricorn in the summertime and it squares the nodes, there can still be like a partner or somebody in your life who's like kind of like the villain who may challenge your ability to really have growth within your career. You got to be careful with who you partner with too, professionally or romantically, because it can affect your reputation, because the 7th and the 10th house is reputation. So you're going to want to be seen with people who are not just on your level in terms of your professional life, but people who are going to be as respectful and as consistent and reliable as you are. So just some food for thought. There's no room for people who are going to kind of threaten all the work that you're going to be putting into your professional life, you know? And for somebody who's so private, that's rather interesting to me, because you've got a ton of planets that are in your 10th house, and technically Neptune belongs to your 7th. So yeah, this is going to be over the next like year or so, really until the North Node is in Pisces, let's say 18 months, where there's going to be a lot more visibility. So it's going to be harder for you to hide out and have privacy. And good on you, you're coming out of Saturn square Saturn, so you'll also see that happen right around the time of Saturn going into Pisces in March. So you're wrapping up your very first Saturn square since your Saturn's return. So once Saturn gets into Pisces, it starts trining your Pluto. It's going to be a lot easier for you, especially when it comes to being able to share what you've learned about relationships in the past. I could also see this being a time where you're getting really serious about your belief systems and expanding travel, or perhaps even what you're learning. Okay. Good luck with that. Hope that was helpful. All right, so let me do a little bit of a recap here now that we've got everybody in. Thank you guys for waiting. Those were all of our level 3 people. You guys can always join level 3 if you don't want to wait. That way you can get right on in there in the future. Okay, so I'm going to call like 3 or 4 people at a time so you guys know. And I've got Michael, followed by, let's see, Paula, and Vera and Darcy. So you guys are the first ones that are going to be up. Everybody else, you can just get comfortable. Hi, Tallulah. How's it going? All right, so let's see, Michael, let's pull you up here. Michael says, let's see, 127.86, 5:15 a.m. in New York. Are there any good things on the horizon for me financially or romantically? I'm not dating, but I'm looking to try again in the spring. Got you as a Cap rising, new moon on your ascendant. Nice. You're asking questions about finances or relationships. Well, Saturn's going to conjunct your Jupiter, so you're going to see the results of your hard work here. Just give it a little bit of time. Once Saturn conjuncts Jupiter, you're going to realize that all your hard work is paying off. Right around the end of January, when Saturn and Venus conjunct your natal Jupiter, there might be a nice little payout there. But for the most part, in terms of relationships, until you have a very strong lunar transit, relationships will then fully bloom. And what's interesting is that you have Jupiter in Aquarius in your second house at 24. You've got Mars in Scorpio at 26 in your 11th house. And you've got your moon in Leo at 24 in your 8th house. So that's a fixed T-square. Technically a grand fixed T-square if you include Lilith. It almost works like a four-way stop. So it's like not everything can happen at one time, right? So as Saturn has been conjuncting your Jupiter, you're like, I need to define my goals. I need to make more money. I need to make more money. That's the right now conjunction. It's squaring Mars, which means it's pushing you to think more about how much you're spending when it comes to your home and your private life, because Mars rules your fourth. It's also putting the pressure on you to really dig deep and focus on your goals when it comes to resources, and also who you align yourself with professionally in terms of networks. And Saturn has been in opposition to your moon. So you have felt like, okay, I'm so focused on kind of what I'm growing and what I'm doing. I don't always have that time for relationship connection, right? Time is money type of thing. So it's been rather complex in terms of that square. And in my opinion, when you have that T-square, the most important thing is the conjunction, because you're like, I got to deal with this right now. Everything else goes on back burner. So making money, developing skills has been the number one thing. So when Saturn conjuncts Jupiter, you start to reap the rewards of that at the end of January. Saturn will also oppose Venus. It's going to make you go, well, I've been working so hard. Maybe it is time for relationships. Maybe I am open. And then it's going to shift your goals again. Saturn comes out of the opposition with your moon, comes out of the square with your natal Mars, and things are going to be so much easier for you in the new year. I'm happy to announce that I think Saturn going into Pisces, because it's going to trine your 7th house, and technically this will belong to your whole sign 3rd. So it's like you're willing to communicate with people more. You'll call people back. You'll want to meet people locally. You'll want to travel. And you're also going to have Saturn that's coming into a sextile with your ascendant and your natal Neptune. So it's like about your vision. Yeah, Saturn oppositions definitely do that. I would just say, like, be excited for Saturn trine your descendant. I'm anticipating maybe Mars going through there is going to bring somebody in April. I definitely think when Venus comes into a trine with Saturn in May. And I also know that next summer for an Aquarius, you're going to have Venus going retrograde in Leo. So that's also going to bring lots of like really significant relationship connections. But long-term transits has to be positive aspects to your natal moon. So something else you've got going on next spring is you've got Jupiter that's going to trine your moon. So to me, it's looking like the sweet spot is going to be like March, April, May. Because of the trine, because Mars is going to go through there, because you come out of the Saturn opposition, because you're also going to see that Saturn is going to be aspecting your 7th house. In astrology, at least for me, before I make a prediction, I need to see like at least 3 different aspects before I'm like, yeah, it's probably going to happen. And generally, we want to see it from outer planets. Saturn, Jupiter, Neptune, things like that. And you've got all of that kind of going on. You could look at your progressed Venus. I would say that's another thing that I would consider looking at, would be your progressed Venus. And also Pluto changing signs. It's coming into Aquarius, so it's going to get really close to your Mercury and your Sun in these next few years, which means even though there will be relationships, you're still going to be very passionate about what you need and what you're hoping to attain, what you want to acquire, because this is going to be your whole sign 2nd. So, I mean, I feel like relationships for you, especially because your moon rules your 7th house and it's in the 8th, you don't find people until you emotionally turn that light on, right? Moon in opposition to Jupiter means people can come in when you're ready and you have kind of sent out the vibes that you're ready. Jupiter rules the 12th house. It means you're very likely going to find somebody while you're traveling in a foreign place or while they're traveling. You could meet them at like a spiritual center or a meditation class or a hospital. But I would also say like looking to meet people who live in other places might be a good idea as well, because you have the moon that aspects Jupiter. And it's always complex because the square to Mars is like, there can be that friction that's like, okay, are we friends? Are we something more? Like, what is it? Once again, it's bringing up that T-square in your chart. If you're advanced in astrology and you know how to like use like astro.com and you can go in and take a look at your progressed chart, go and look at your progressed Venus. That's just like a tip. Your progressed Venus can tell you a lot about what's going on in your relationships, as can your progressed moon, or if you look at the ruler of your progressed 7th house and what the Lord is, take a look at what that planet is doing. You can compare that to the natal chart as well. And you've also got Venus square Pluto, you've got Venus square the nodes. I mean, like, man, so having had Saturn come off of, you know, just come out of Aquarius in general, I feel like is definitely going to make it a lot easier for you. And Saturn in Pisces is going to trine your Pluto, and it's going to trine your 7th house cusp. So I feel like all year long, because I believe Saturn, when it retrogrades, it'll be at like 7 or 8 degrees, will be in harmonious aspects to both your 7th house and also your Pluto self node. Progressed Venus in the 3rd. So if your progressed Venus is in the 3rd, then also look at the ruler of your 7th house, that Lord, and then look at what's going on with the progressions, because sometimes like you'll look at transits and it doesn't make sense, but then when you look at the progressions, you're like, oh, my progressed Venus just entered my 7th house, or my progressed Venus is conjuncting my natal sun. Some weird stuff like that can be a very significant turning point. The progressed moon as well. But financially, your mind is kind of on your money, and you have been really focused on your goals, and you've been kind of putting relationships on the back burner. March, April is when that's really going to open up. It's just the willingness to go and communicate and talk to people, right? 7th house ruler in the 12th. So just look at how it's being aspected. If it's being aspected by anything significant right now, or if there's like eclipses that are going to be happening to that as well. 7th house lord in the 12th, still, it's the same thing. It's like you could meet somebody in a foreign place, you could meet somebody in a spiritual center, you could meet them while they're visiting our country. You have to kind of look at transits to that. But I personally, the more that I'm practicing astrology, the more that I'm looking at my progress chart, being like, holy cow, this is something that like not a lot of people know about. Like, people are just starting to learn to listen to their ascendant sign. If you've been listening to your ascendant sign, great. Now go listen to your progressed ascendant sign, because you're going to see a lot of truth there. But I would say, yeah, in the spring, things are going to open up. You're also coming into your nodal return. So for that north node to be hanging out in your 4th house, conjunct your natal north node, Jupiter is going to hit it. I think you're going to be traveling to a foreign place, or you're going to have the opportunity to go and visit or be in a bigger home. When that presents itself, take it, because it may come hand in hand with meeting someone, because the moon is exalted in Taurus and the moon rules your 7th house. Good luck. All right, so we have Paula. And I believe that was March 21st. Yes. Paula says, there has to be something that is blocking romantic relationships in my chart, because I've never met someone with a more non-existent love life than me. I've had one relationship in my life years ago, and I haven't been able to find another date since. I'm worried because I don't know why it seems impossible to find dates. Oh, Paula. Scorpio rising, Pluto in the 12th, Sun in Aries, Venus in Pisces, Jupiter just hit your Venus. You're got Mars retrograde in your 7th. Your 7th house is ruled by Venus. Venus is exalted in Pisces. It's in the 5th house. You have a really nice placement for your Venus, by the way. Venus opposes the moon. There we go. So looking for love in all the wrong places, like geographically. Okay. So Venus in Pisces, really great. Venus in the 5th, really great. Romantic, dreamy, mystical. It's also right behind your sun. So there can be this sense of like, where are they? To be honest with you, the horoscope for Scorpio risings is still really positive because you're having eclipses still in your 7th house, bringing in significant relationships. The North Node has not left your 7th house whole sign yet. It won't for a few more months. You got your Jupiter return right now on your sun in the 5th house, and you have Saturn coming into Pisces. So to be honest with you, I think really the where are they stems from the fact that the moon is in opposition to Venus, which means there is this conflict between your emotional needs and the love of other people, not feeling like you're getting what you need. This has been furthered in recent months because Mars has been in Gemini, especially since like September, October, squaring your natal Venus, where Neptune is getting close, and squaring your moon. You're like, am I ever going to find anybody? Where am I going to find somebody? Where am I going to find somebody? Listen, here's how it goes. Because you're a Scorpio rising, because you still have Saturn in your 4th house, Placidus-wise, it's going to be there still for another year. You need to be looking to meet people in other places. I have so many friends and family in my life. I have so many friends in my life who are Scorpio risings, and they have all said the same thing to me. I can't find anybody, I can't meet anybody, and it doesn't matter where they look or where they go. And I keep telling everybody, if you leave your city, if you travel somewhere, if you get on an online dating site and expand your search optimization, you will meet someone. Because Saturn's in your 4th house, squaring Uranus in your 7th, right? That's what's been going on. You've also got Uranus going in and out of your 7th house, which can just dramatically bring in a partner very quickly. So I would not discredit that. I would say when Uranus is coming back for your 7th house and when you're coming into your Venus-Jupiter transit, I have a feeling that can bring someone. So that's looking like right around the beginning of March. You may also find that another opportunity to meet someone will be when Venus is in your 7th house. You've got Juno, Venus, and Jupiter that are all going to kind of align. So this looks even better at the beginning of April because Uranus is back in your 7th house, sparking up sudden relationships. Venus is in its ruling sign, coming into conjunction with your Jupiter and your Mars. And here comes Juno, which is about relationships and commitment. So like honestly, April-ish. I'm not just saying that. You got a couple transits. Now, the next time things are going to kind of light up is going to be when Jupiter shows up. And Jupiter's going to go into Taurus in spring. It won't be in your whole sign 7th. It's in your whole sign 7th, but it's not technically in your 7th house yet. And Jupiter rules the 2nd house of money, resources, and land. And it's going to go into your 7th house, which for a lot of Scorpio risings, it means that you're going to meet somebody who's very wealthy. Or you're going to end up being in a relationship with somebody who has a wealth of knowledge. Okay, Taurus, food, money, resources. Uranus could be crypto. Uranus could be astrology. It could mean that they have a knowledge of growing food, designing. Maybe they work in banking. And when Jupiter and Uranus sit in your 7th house, once again, this will be spring of 24, it's going to sextile your Venus and you're going to have your Juno return. And I hope you remember this conversation because you're going to be like, oh my God, that's crazy. Candace told me this and now I'm suddenly getting married in the spring of 2024. And why are you committing and getting married? Well, because you have Mars on your Venus and Saturn on your Mercury, which means most likely you're talking about either getting married because you're interested in starting a family, or you're involved in some kind of creative business with this other person, and so the merger stems through the business, or you're pregnant. It could be one of these things. But when you have Jupiter, Uranus in your 7th, sextiling your 5th, working together, sharing together, building together, most likely that's what's going to happen. And you got your Juno return. So I would be very surprised if that does not happen, to be honest with you. Another timeline will also be when the North Node moves into Pisces. Obviously, this is down the road, but when the North Node sits conjunct your Venus and Neptune, this will be in the beginning of 2025. This is about bringing in really significant, romantic connections or falling in love with someone or something. It's doubling down also with your Jupiter return. So that could either be on one hand, that's another time where somebody could come in, or that could be 7th house, the birth of a potential second kid. So that is possible. Although, 5th house can be projects, it can be love affairs, it can be self-employment. It doesn't always have to be children. But 2024 and 2025 seems like it's already happening. So my advice is just to look at what's going on in this next spring. When you have Uranus on your descendant and you've got Jupiter in your whole sign, go and learn about Neptune transit your natal Venus, because in your case, yeah, mystical, magical, you can fall in love with somebody, but Neptune can also be like, where is my love? Where is my person? And you're feeling lost. And Neptune in opposition to your moon is like, well, why don't I have someone? Everybody else has someone. What about me? And the moon is bringing up the 9th house, the need for taking classes, for studying, for traveling, for working in collaboration with like foreigners and like joining a group. Like a friend might say, hey, let's go on a trip. Let's go and visit this country. I would say, yes, go. That's definitely something that you want to do, because it's going to help open up that energy, making it possible for you to meet someone. Hopefully that is helpful for you. But Uranus in your 7th house, I have probably seen probably about a dozen or so Scorpio risings who have been like, I'm not going to ever meet anybody, or like, I just got out of a relationship, or I'm never dating again, and then somebody shows up. So usually it's just in a very Uranian way, you know? Uranus rules your 4th house. It can be people from the past. It can be people who live in other places. Circle back and let us know. We have Vera, Darcy, Katie, and then Free Spirit. You're welcome. All right, so let's pull up Vera. Vera says, what's going on in the coming months? Family, relationship, kids, career. Well, let's see. Leo rising, Sun in Aquarius. 5:52 p.m. Nope, it needs to be a.m. Give me 1 second. There we go. 5:52 a.m. And that was February 8th. Capricorn rising, Sun in Aquarius, Moon in Aries. What's going on? Well, let's see. Probably the biggest thing is you're finally getting ready to have Saturn leave your sign. So that's going to like ease up in terms of finances. Jupiter's going to hit your moon. So that does talk about a relationship with your second child. Okay, because the 7th house is the second child. If you haven't already had one, watch out. But it does expand relationships and the opportunity for you to be able to grow more with them emotionally or in terms of resources. I would be more focused on the fact that you have a Mercury retrograde that's just going to be tearing through your entire 1st house. It's going to hit your Mars, your Neptune, your Venus, and your natal Uranus. And with all those planets in Capricorn on the 1st house, it makes me feel like there's a sense of you being like, I need to come up with a plan. Like, where are we going? What are we doing? Type of thing, you know? So it's putting the pressure on you to be like, what do I believe in? What am I bringing in? And Mercury rules your 8th house of change. Also your 5th house of children and your 6th house. So to me, it seems like it's about how you're managing and changing and transforming your patterns and your habits and making more time for what you love. But for that many planets in Capricorn and for a retrograde to be going through there, to me, this is screaming like the need to really get organized, come up with a plan, stay on schedule. You might be kind of talking to people more in your life about how you can kind of consistently find a routine for your health, for your work, for, you know, just keeping the house picked up. But a Mercury retrograde in your 1st, a Mars retrograde in your whole sign 6th, you have to really pay attention to your body right now, because I feel like you could be like on overload in terms of stimulus and you're just taking too much on. Saturn's also coming out of a square with your natal Pluto, so that tells me that there's been this back and forth storyline with like, do I love what I'm doing? Do I not? Am I working too hard? Do I feel like I'm not getting enough out of it? It's highlighting your natal Sun square Pluto, so it's like where you're doing work and taking orders from other people and not feeling like you're getting enough out of it. And you have got Uranus that's going to be retrograding back, coming into conjunction with your IC. So that's going to be January and February. So Uranus on the IC can definitely bring up some changes emotionally, but also within the home. So it's hitting that complex T-square with your sun again, where it's like resources change, home changes, job changes. Saturn won't be squaring it any longer, so that's going to get easier. Saturn won't be squaring Pluto. But by the time Uranus wakes up, it's going to come into an opposition next summer with your natal Pluto. So if there's been this back and forth, I'm not making enough money, I am not managing my resources or my budget, I'm not taking good care of my self-esteem, I'm not eating well, whatever, that's going to kind of like break wide open, especially next summer. So I'm wondering, what have you been holding back? Have you been holding on to something for security and not making the change? It can be a physical thing, can be a habit, it can be a resource, it can be your home. But in terms of like kids and children, I mean, you know, I feel like the Mars retrograde in your 6th is really kind of highlighting where there needs to be a sense of, you know, making more time to have fun with them, and also focusing on ways to be able to kind of get them on a schedule. So it's a lot of like picking up, do this, do that, you know, help me, help you type of a thing. And all that Mars really irritates Capricorn because it's just moving through Gemini. So it's hitting all your Capricorn stuff. So it makes you agitated or needing more structure or feeling like you're behind on a timeline. I look at this and I go, it's not really about other people. It's about you. It's about you focusing on your body. It's about you focusing on your resources. It's about you also sticking to either a financial budget or a routine. That seems to be very important as well. And really pay attention. We had a Mercury retrograde here the beginning of 2022. So Mercury was retrograding, I think, January-ish. You might want to look back into what was going on then. Little different because it was also a Venus retrograde. But for this to be happening with Mars, it seems to either be about your work and making a change in a direction with your schedule or your health. These are the two most important things right now. Okay? Good luck, Vera. We've got Darcy, Katie, Free Spirit, and then Stephanie. So let's see, Darcy. Darcy says, new moon reading, January 9, 2007. General, anything I need to know. January 9, 2007. We got some young ones in here. What's going on, Darcy? I've got you here, Capricorn rising, sun in Capricorn, and your moon is in Virgo. You just want to confirm this is the right year? I'm looking at this and I'm like, I remember 2007. I think that's what happens as you get older, right? Let me know if you're in the chat. Probably the big thing that I'm looking at is the fact that you've got Pluto that's coming in hot in conjunction with your ascendant. Now Pluto is direct. So that's a very big transit. I mean, like huge. That's life-changing. Not everybody gets that transit. Okay. So Pluto coming into conjunction with your ascendant is a profound change and a transformation of the relationship you have with yourself. Your assertiveness, your body, your outlook, how you move through life. Okay, so I see the first house as soon as you get up in the morning, the first thing that you do. Pluto sitting on your ascendant means you're going to wake up and you're going to go, how am I going to take over the world? What am I doing with my life? And it doesn't matter how old you are, okay? You could be like in your teens or you could be like 70 years old. Everybody's going through this in different time frames, but that transit is about a transformation. Pluto can be something that just totally knocks the winds out of your sails and takes you to your knees. It's not a planet that is easy to deal with, but you know this, right? Because you're born with Mars and Pluto conjunct, so you are very intense and very passionate, especially about your beliefs. And you have had Pluto go through your sun, your Mercury, and now it's coming for your ascendant. So I'm sending you lots of love. I'm born with Mars conjunct Pluto as well. And I also have had Pluto hit all of my personal planets. So not my ascendant, but I have had it hit an angle, and I've had it hit my sun, Mercury, and my Venus and my Neptune. And it's really what kind of over a period of many years totally brought me to doing what I'm doing. So you're obviously going to be really interested, I think, in anything that just makes humans tick. So if you like astrology, great. I would recommend learn about evolutionary astrology. Maybe I'm biased because that's what I study, but Pluto placements are really going to like that. And it's about regeneration and change and transformation. Now, your ascendant is at 28. So in my opinion, that's a Cancer degree. So it deals with the home, the family, roots, nurturing, the past, but it can be your physical space as well. So as Pluto comes in conjunction with your ascendant, it's going to be, how do I learn how to transform my emotions? How am I taking responsibility for my feelings? How am I protecting myself? How am I asserting my energy differently? How am I standing up for myself? The dark side of Pluto is it can be ruthless and mean and demanding. It can also bring brushes with stuff that can be dangerous. Okay, I'll just leave it at that. And when it crosses your ascendant, it opposes your 7th house. So people could see you as being domineering, or you as being vindictive, or if you use Pluto in the appropriate way, they see you as the healer, you as transmuting pain, you as transforming your appearance, you as changing your home or your location. Take care of your bones, take care of your skin. Those are the 2 things I would recommend. Drink lots of water. Look into taking a supplement called resveratrol. It'll help the cells regenerate and go through like a detoxification process, because that's what Pluto will do. You may be cold more often. That's something else that I hear a lot of with Pluto on the ascendant in Capricorn, that people are freezing or they have aches and pains. Yoga can be really helpful, as can hiking or light weightlifting. Watch for obsessions and fixations with your body though. Okay, that's the one thing that I would say. You're in a Saturn opposition also. So Saturn opposed Saturn is a lot of what you need versus what other people will give you. It's the very first opposition that you have had. So it represents this turning point to where you have to learn to do everything differently than your natal Saturn. To me, it looks like it still does resonate with, you know, standing up for yourself because it's in your first house and your personal boundaries, but it's also about money and resources. So things should get a little bit easier here soon now that you're coming out of this opposition in the new year. You're having a Mercury retrograde the 12th, so it's a really good time for rest, recuperation, reflection, and paying attention to dreams. In the midst of this retrograde, Mercury and Venus will come into conjunction with Pluto, and it's going to trine your moon. So I think it's about learning how to like energetically or emotionally detox, and it's also about spiritual routine. In this next year, you're going to see Neptune come into an opposition with your moon as well, and I think that's going to be possibly about challenges in regards to relationships with women. So mother figures, aunts, you know, sisters, grandmothers, things like that. And thankfully, Pluto will be trining. So even though the Neptune opposed moon makes it difficult to emotionally resonate and relate, Pluto trine means that you're willing to change and transform and like learn how to be able to transmute some of those issues in general. Watch for these eclipses that are going to keep happening throughout this next year. You've got an eclipse that's going to be on your midheaven in the spring, right around 14, 15 degrees. That's something else where it's going to be a huge turning point when it comes to wrapping up one pivotal kind of point in your life and getting you set up for a new one. South Node going through your 10th house is removing yourself from feeling like you have to be out in the public or working or doing this or doing that. The North Node in the 4th is about home, family, roots. So I'm curious with some of these planets going through there, if you start learning about like healing rituals and working with herbs. You know, Capricorn is like the old ways. It's what's traditional. So you may be drawn to like occult stuff or magic or mysticism or herbalism. And you may be very private about it, but as Pluto sits on the ascendant, you're going to kind of embody more of that archetype, and you're going to want to share your ability to kind of transmute stuff. So it can be a very powerful healing transit in general. Very curious to see how that plays out for you. That's a very, very big transit. I would go and learn about that. By the end of the transit, it'll take about 1.5 years before you're done. You may look and feel very, very different, right? So detoxification is a big part of that process, especially anything that can be habits in general. Hopefully that's helpful for you, Darcy. I've got Katie, Free Spirit, Stephanie, and Sharon. Let's see. Here we go. January 9th, 73. 10:08 a.m. Katie says, new moon astrology reading. Anything in particular you want to know? Thank you. Oh, that was, let's see, who was that? Or was that the one that left it blank intentionally? Let me know. Oh, okay, anything general. Okay, cool. Gotcha. All right. Pisces rising, 26 degrees. You got your sun in Capricorn. You got your moon in Pisces. Neptune's coming for your ascendant. Now that Neptune has woken up, that's something that I would look into over this next year. Especially because I feel like Neptune crossing your ascendant at 26 is going to be like a lot of, I'm not attached to things. I don't need things. That's something that you might notice, that there's a sense of not feeling attached to like material objects. We've got this Mercury retrograde that's going to go over your natal, planet. So your Jupiter, your Sun, and your North Node. It's going to stop short of your Mercury, but that's okay. So your natal Sun and Jupiter belonging to your 11th house is an amazing time to reevaluate your goals. And Sun Jupiter is super, just a wealth of like knowledge and information. That's a really great placement to have if you have a natal Jupiter rising chart. I like that Mercury rules your 7th. So it's about reconnecting with friends and people from the past and people who can give you advice. Getting feedback from others, counselors, therapists, clients, friends, romantic partners, the list goes on. I also like that it's going to trine your 2nd house. So something about your 11th house of goals, your 7th house of relationships, and your 2nd house of money and values. It's a really great time to be checking in with other people and like showing appreciation, and vice versa. You might notice the same thing. Mercury makes me feel like it's going to bring friends back to you that are going to help give you the opportunity to kind of either help them or give you feedback in terms of working on your goals, though. It can be professional because it's Capricorn, but it can also just be about through your reconnection with certain friends and partnerships, you're going to realize like who your true people are, right? And, it's meant to bring you blessings because it's about support. Mercury is your 7th house lord. The 4th house is also connected to Mercury as well. And it's interesting because you're seeing that the 4th house is the past. Mars is retrograde in that same sign. And it's like agitating all of your Capricorn placements. So you might feel like there are people who are reaching out to you and you're like, oh, I don't have time to get back to this person, but they'll keep reaching out to you, or they'll keep sending you messages, or they'll keep sending you like notes or emails, or vice versa. There can be somebody who you're just like kind of getting that message that you need to talk to them or check in with them, and it keeps coming up. I think that's also really positive because these are the signs I would be looking for, because it's almost like Mercury's way of being like, no, you need to connect with these people. There's kind of a need to share information or get the feedback or get the constructive criticism that you or they may need. The new moon obviously happened very close to your MC in your chart, technically a couple degrees away. So yeah, in your 11th house, but still going to bring you the blessings and opportunities for expanding in your career. So that's something else that I see that's really positive here. What else do we got going on? Mars going retrograde back and forth over your Saturn. And it's been in an opposition also to your Venus and a square to your moon. So once again, another sign that there have been things coming up that's like whether or not you're speaking out and you're communicating, or if you're kind of feeling like you're clamming up. Mars going retrograde over your Saturn in the 3rd is highlighting this karmic theme that you have revolving around communicating and like speaking your truth to others. You may feel more comfortable like writing it out rather than like talking to people face to face, or just kind of getting all of your ideas out on paper, or even journaling. And as Mars has been going back and forth over your Saturn, it's been squaring your natal moon. So are you also like deciding who's worth communicating with and kind of hashing things out with or not? Has there been some challenges with female relatives, specifically siblings or female cousins or aunts? because you've got the square to your moon. Or unresolved issues, things that were left unsaid with women, that kind of comes up in your chart. Neptune's coming into conjunction with your ascendant. That's not going to be for a while, but now that Neptune is direct, it's going to move pretty quickly. So by the time we get to the spring, it's going to be pretty much sitting right on your ascendant. So April, May 2023, Neptune on the ascendant. Very spiritual. There can be visions. There can be lots of like extrasensory things that start kind of picking up for you. But because it's going to square your natal Venus, there's going to be a sense of like, this doesn't bring me pleasure anymore. You know, this job, this relationship, this thing. And it's going to be about letting go, releasing, letting things go. And there can be like a slight tinge also of like disappointment. That's like, I thought I was going to do this forever. I thought I liked this forever. And this realization that something's changing, right? That's going to be definitely coming up for you. I like the North Node transit through Taurus, even into Aries for Pisces rising. I like Jupiter going into your second house. I like the trines to the 11th house. I feel like the ways in which you want to make money or feel fulfilled are changing, basically. And I can see that with the Neptune transit, with the trines from your second to your 11th. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on there. Probably the big thing right now, though, is this retrograde. And it's like a really nice opportunity as Mercury turns retrograde through all of your personal planets in the 11th to connect to people to help you realize and reconnect to who you are, what you value, what's important to you, what your goals are. And people around you are going to start reminding you of this. So it is important for you to show up and to try to be social. Answer the phone, go to the party, connect with people. Because some of these people are coming back because they themselves also can help you get connected. That's the other way that I could look at this as well. Okay? Good luck, my dear. All right, so we have got Stephanie, Sharon, and then Tonga. Let's see here. Stephanie. Sun Jupiter. Everybody wants to party with you if you have Sun Jupiter in the 11th house. All right, Stephanie says 6:30:83. You're very welcome, Katie. I did not forget about my super chat as well. I've got you coming up here. Don't worry. Lisa. Okay, Steph, are you here? Do you have a particular question for me? Let me know, otherwise I'll come back to you. There you go, just general. I love this. Happy solstice, Saturnalia, Yule. Saturnalia would definitely be my choice holiday, but thank you, Patrick. You as well. Thank you, Stephanie. Libra rising, moon in Pisces, sun in Cancer. My dear, you had that new moon very close to your IC, okay? So having a new moon there, setting new intentions emotionally, focusing on your home base, reorganizing your home, things that have to do with your family, your roots, your heritage, okay? It's a wild one. It opposes your Mars and it squares your ascendant and your descendant. So I'm curious how the last like couple days have been because it has activated all of the angles in your chart. Having a new moon in opposition to your Mars definitely does bring up the theme of having to socialize or interact with other people, sometimes in a more combative way, right? Jupiter's coming into your 7th house. So lots of talking to others, dealing with home, dealing with family, dealing with relationships, because the squares are very loud, on top of having Pluto come into a square with your natal Saturn. So both of those transits make me wonder what's either going on with you in terms of the home department or what's going on with you emotionally. I've been really busy with projects, but I'm pretty much done with them. Okay, cool. The Mercury retrograde in general, because Mercury rules your 12th house of rest and recuperation, sleep, peace, the bedroom, It also rules your 9th house of like higher learning and knowledge. I feel like the retrograde is time for you to set time aside to make sure that you're getting adequate rest or time for meditation. It's a really great time for you just to actively take time to unplug, disconnect, be out in nature, or be crawling into bed with like a good book and just taking time to be alone, you know, not focusing so much on work, which a 10th house sun is going to want to do. Mercury in opposition to your sun is like, no. I mean, look at how many planets you have at the bottom of your chart. That tells me that there is much more focus and emphasis on home life, private life, what you're working through emotionally. Thankfully, Pluto, like I said, is coming out of a square with your Saturn. So this last Mercury retrograde and all these planets in Capricorn for you are going to feel almost as if like there is a turning point going on with your either private life or your home life or your family. And if you have nothing to do, then amazing. Do nothing. Relax. Be at home. You know, the 4th house Capricorn means you have to work hard when it comes to taking care of your home and your emotions. Sometimes that means giving yourself a bath, making yourself a home-cooked meal, you know, putting yourself down for a nap, all that stuff, and nurturing and parenting yourself. That's really, really, really important in this next week. You'll hear for Cancer that the Mercury retrograde is difficult for communication, and I would say, sure, it's your opposite sign, but it's going to actually be in your 4th house. So likely there's more challenges in communicating with family, relatives, one of your parents, or anybody who you may be living with. So just know that there's some things that are getting reorganized or kind of moved around in terms of your physical home space or perhaps even your family. I'm a Libra rising. I have definitely felt this. Just random things that are going missing or just kind of like missed messages and other things from like family members. And I have a feeling that you may have some similar things. So if it hasn't already hit you, then the Mercury retrograde is definitely going to bring this up, especially because when Mercury stations, it's going to be in direct opposition to your sun. And sun rules your 11th house of goals and gains. Also friends and family and relationships that you have with some of these people. So, is that Moldavite? Yeah, Moldavite has a tendency to go missing. It's a tektite, you know, it's got a mind of its own. Usually it goes missing and then it turns back up. But especially crystals, rocks, right? The earth element. I've had so many things go missing. I've given up. I'm like, I have to wait till the Kazemi for it to come back. I'm relying on horary charts to find missing things because I don't have it in me. But yeah, the retrograde and the new moon in opposition to both your Mars and your Sun means that it's not about work, it's about home and downtime, rest, recuperation, taking good care of your emotional health. As a Libra rising, when you see Pluto and Venus come together, it might be a little bit of an intense time. Just a heads up, this will be right around the 30th and the 31st. Venus Pluto can be dark and sexy, so it can be great for like, you know, having a romantic night at home, but it's going to square your natal Pluto Saturn. And that makes me feel like it's going to be right around New Year's that there could be some intensity with just people in the home or within the family. So heads up for that. And your homework is to go and learn about Saturn coming into conjunction with your natal moon. Between that conjunction and this retrograde, it seems to indicate that there can be some challenges going on with an older female relative in the family. Saturn moon, literally the ruler of your 4th house, which could be the mother or mother figures. And technically the moon belongs to your 6th house. So if it's not that, then it definitely is an older pet, one of those two things. But Saturn on the moon next year, you want to be ready for that. There can be heavier moods. So yoga and regular mantras, meditation, chanting with that Pisces moon. In your case, it might be art or creativity or dance to help kind of neutralize some of these heavier moods that might be coming. Yeah, the Saturn transit will bring that out. She's got to stay moving around because Saturn will limit her. But that'll be on the moon all next year. Hopefully that's helpful for you. Oh, wow, she's 97. That is quite an accomplishment, man. That is not easy to get to be that age. Hopefully she's feeling better. We're going to send her some good vibes. I've got Sharon, Tonga, Crystal, and Spaghetti. Let's see, Sharon. Sharon is October 973. Okay. How can this new moon help me and make it work for me? Jupiter being in my 4th. Whatever jumps out at you, I really need to pay attention to. Thank you very much. I love you too. All right, so you're Cap rising. You're asking about Jupiter being in your 4th house. Honestly, all of the cardinal signs, if you are within the first 10 degrees, you were just getting like bombarded right now. Sun, moon, or rising, because Jupiter is squaring, and Jupiter squared this new moon. So the last couple days have felt like really big energy, and planets at the beginning degrees of cardinal signs are about initiating new things. Aries is what we initiate, what we start, what we give life to, and Capricorn is what we take responsibility for. So yeah, there's a lot of squares in this chart. Jupiter going into your 4th house in general is kind of indicating that there's an expansion coming of the home, or for the family, or for like a for a mother or a father figure. The new moon in general was right on your North Node. So the North Node in the 12th house. North Node in the 12th house is consciously taking time to focus on the spiritual body, right? The 6th house is the physical body. The 12th house is the spiritual. So that's like rest, recuperation, meditation, private time, being in sacred centers like temples, or meditation centers, or anything that's going to be like private, basically. Ruled by Saturn, and you have Saturn natally in Cancer in the 6th house. So it seems like it's like the lessons of the sacredness and the spiritual growth that comes from stepping away from relatives, or stepping away from family. What you learn when you change houses, change relationships, change careers, right? Cancer and Capricorn is all going to be about home, mother, roots, femininity, emotional nurturing, and Capricorn is more about career, responsibility, and what you're doing out in the world. So having Saturn on the South Node and having planets on your North Node, you go through periods of like leaning into one or the other. Jupiter coming into the square, it's going to be in your 4th house, but not for a little bit. It's going to square your nodes. So you're going to have transit Jupiter square the nodes. It's doing that now. And then you're going to have transit Jupiter come into a square with your natal Saturn. And what it's saying is are you willing to expand your inner emotional world, your home, your relationship with family? Do you have to travel to go and be with family? Many Capricorn risings that have relatives in other countries, you may get wind that you need to go and see them or be with them, especially if you have a mother that's having health problems, okay? Obviously, touch wood, but that can be a thing because Jupiter rules your 12th house. When it squares Saturn, I think it's about whether or not you're willing to open up your home or your emotional life to relationships. That seems to be the big thing that's coming up. But a North Node new moon is saying, like, how do you plant the seeds for what your soul purpose is, right? How do you plant the seeds for that right now? Super complex because it also squares Pluto. So to me, there's a lot of like, where am I supposed to be? I haven't figured it out yet. You may not figure out where you're landing or what this home expansion is until closer to like March, April, May anyway. For right now, I think a new moon in opposition to Saturn is, what are you holding space for within yourself? What is your vision? What are you hoping to create? Saturn is moving through Aquarius. So for your chart, it's getting ready to leave your 2nd house and go into your 3rd house. So at the very least, you might move within your local environment. You might get a new car. You might learn how to communicate better with a relative. You might start learning a new practice or a new technique or a new like software or a new program, sometimes even a new language. A lot of change is going to be happening though. And I feel inclined to tell you that it has to happen in a series of like sequenced events because it isn't going to be until next year when the nodes come into a square with Pluto that you go through another kind of growth spurt. And that's going to be in July when the North and the South nodes square Pluto on your ascendant. And that may also indicate a period of being like, okay, now it's time for me to kind of shift gears and like also move. Watching Jupiter come into conjunction with Mars, it tells me that you need more space in your home, either for a younger person, a romantic partner, or for a hobby that you are participating in. But definitely Jupiter on your Mars, Jupiter going through your whole sign fourth. there is going to be much more emphasis in being home, being with family, being closer to your home base, and being able to work more on your emotions than usual. So I don't know what you're anticipating or what you're planning, but that seems very, very, very significant. Even the North Node coming into conjunction with Mars can represent, you know, having to quickly show up and be around family or take care of family. So that would be as early as February. Unless you own a property or a home and you're planning on making changes and making renovations and knocking things down, that's another way that you can do this. But yeah, for the most part, get ready, because the spring is going to be rather active in focusing on your emotional or your home or your intuitive self, okay? Especially being around home and family. That seems to be very significant. Use the new moon to envision that, you know, create a vision board, sit and meditate, reflect, do some journaling, and definitely set intentions relating to your North Node, because I think for you in general, it's okay, what do I gain through making changes either with my living situation or my career? And how does that bring me closer into relationships and union with other people? Good luck. We've got Tonga, Crystal, Spaghetti, Christina, and Catherine. All right, so let's see. I know we put Tonga in. And she was February 20th, 1975, 4:53 a.m. She said, "Hey Candace, I'm self-employed and recently had to take time away due to my mom's health and passing. I'm sorry to hear that. This meant that I didn't make income for the time I was away from work. I lost most of my clients and things haven't stabilized since I returned in October. Any insight into when things might feel a bit more comfortable financially? Thanks in advance." Well, Merry Christmas to you as well. I'm sorry to hear about your loss. That's a difficult one. We have a Capricorn rising, and your sun is in Pisces, and your moon is in Pisces. Your sun is in Pisces, and your moon is in Gemini. I was looking at your Venus-Jupiter conjunction. That's sweet. Are you an artist? So this is a primary example of what I was talking about with Capricorn risings, okay? Not all of them, but a decent amount of them. With Jupiter going through your natal 4th house, this is highlighting the fact that Jupiter rules your 12th house of what is hidden and health and things in regards to, you know, centers and illness, and it's going through the 4th, right? So a lot of Capricorn risings have had their mothers get sick. So I'm sorry to hear that. So you're a psychotherapist. When does money get better? Okay. Personally, I feel like when the Mercury retrograde is over in your 12th and you've had time to like really work through things and process things, Mercury rules your 8th house in a Placidus chart. So that tells me that you're also still feeling like you're either relying on credit or loans, or, you know, taking money from savings or eating away at an inheritance. Like there is some sense of you having to kind of go through that. When Mercury comes out of its retrograde in your 12th, and we also see that we have some positive transits to your natal sun, I think that's when things are going to get easier for you financially. So that's looking like right around the end of January. Venus on the sun coming into your 2nd house. And clients is the moon. And you're going to see that the moon is going to be making quite a bit of trines to Jupiter and Venus, especially around the last week of January, the 1st week of February. I think the Mercury retrograde also, just food for thought. I'm not going to tell you how to do what you're doing work-wise, but because Mercury rules the 8th house, and that can be about insurance and that can be about other payments. I wonder if you're going back and forth and you're like, well, should I potentially, you know, like get aligned with a particular insurance company? Should I become a provider of services? You know, do I want to get affiliated with one of these health groups or one of these insurance groups? You could, okay? Because it's going to go retrograde in your 12th, it could also mean that there's going to be other treatment centers or healing centers or other larger companies that you could collaborate with and do some work with if you wanted. Mercury will also sextile your natal Jupiter and Venus. So I know that you want to work independently, but there may be some gaps that you can fill in where you could actually do some work with some other people and it would bring in clients. Unless you're wanting to go and work with like a center and do some kind of care. You could do that too. Yeah. I mean, if you wanted to, you could. And the retrogrades are always temporary, right? So I see this as, oh, well, could you go and do that and do it until February or March just to kind of pick up the pace a little bit financially? Yeah, you could with this chart. Then right around the time that you're having your Venus return and it's been about 2 or 3 months, things kind of taper off a little bit and finances should get easier. Part of this is also that you've had Mars going retrograde in your 5th house, which is about self-employment, and it's been in a square to your natal Jupiter and Venus. So you have scaled back a little bit. Obviously, Jupiter and Venus likes to have the freedom of being able to buy what they want, eat what they want, and indulge in what they want. But Neptune is getting close. So you're going to realize that there can be sometimes subconscious patterns that come up of spending or buying things when you're feeling emotional or when you're feeling sad. And so what's happening with Pluto sextile this right now and Neptune there is like you're realizing like, whoa, this is where my money is going, or I've gotten so used to spending this much on clothes or this much on food. I think Neptune is going to teach you that you can do without, to be honest with you. Neptune coming in conjunction with Venus. And it might also push you to, I'm not going to say doing work that's more meaningful, but doing what you're doing in a much more meaningful way, where you might actually align with a group or an association, or you start incorporating like art therapy with Jupiter and Venus and Neptune all in kind of conjunction. So I don't know if that's something that you've considered, but that might be something that you end up doing. Because Neptune rules your 2nd house, I'm also looking at like the sun coming into a square with Neptune and you having more clarity about your financial future by the beginning of March. So at the very least, it's looking like, you know, you can be picking up the slack really come the new year if you wanted to, and things are going to start getting a little bit easier in the new year, right around March. Now, another time is when the sun moves into Aries, and we're going to have the sun come into conjunction with Jupiter right after Venus. So yeah, the mid-March period looking like when it's going to get a little bit more stable. Keep in mind also, Pluto is coming into a conjunction with your ascendant, okay? So the ascendant is who you are in general. It is opposing your 7th house, which is your clients. So you're looking at this going, how do I need to change and transform what I'm doing work-wise to bring in the right clientele, right? 7th house. So Pluto can be, well, I'm a transformational coach, or I'm going to be doing this, or I'm going to be doing that. And just incorporating different techniques, right? So that's part of it. And Mars retrograde on your moon can be really frustrating because you're like, people aren't consistent. They're not, you know, they start working with me and then they don't come back, or they're not making their weekly appointments. You can have some people that are kind of flippy-floppy with the Mars-Moon conjunction at the moment. That'll also get easier in the new year as well, okay? But personally, I think that Saturn hitting your sun, and that's going to be about really defining yourself in March. And when we start seeing, you know, Neptune coming into conjunction with your Venus, I wonder if you're going to do some work with like hypnotherapy or meditation, honestly. I kind of get the vibe that you might do something like that. Audio tapes or other techniques and other things that people can be practicing, so you're bringing in more residual income. Good luck. Hopefully that's helpful. Go and learn about Neptune transit your natal Venus. That's really important for doing work that you feel like is going to be your purpose. And it will probably incorporate something in regards to like music or meditation or art. One of those things will kind of factor into your healing abilities. Good luck. We've got Crystal, Spaghetti, Christina, Catherine, Rachel. It's already happened. No longer aligned with psychotherapy. Do the bureaucratic, yes, for audio tapes. Awesome. Well, when you get that up and running, send me your info. I'd love to see it. All right, so let's see. Did I put crystal in here? I think I did. Crystal, crystal, crystal. There we go. Oops. And July 6, 91. Yep. 4:33 p.m. I would like a general reading. Anything that I should be aware of in the near future. I thought I'd met a guy who fit into my 9th house placements, but that ended recently due to distance. Well, I'm sorry to hear that. Scorpio rising. Sun in Cancer, and your moon is in Taurus. Relationships ending due to distance. Here comes Saturn in opposition to your natal Mars and also your Venus, right? So that seems to suggest, yeah, literally a separation, especially because Aquarius is your 4th house, of a relationship because they live in a different place. But I wonder, is it going to stick? Right? Mars is going retrograde in your 7th. Is that going to stick? Maybe not. Maybe. But we got to see what happens when the Mars retrograde ends. And I'm also looking at like Mars, once it goes direct, you're going to see trines from Venus to Mars. So I wonder if you're still going to go back and forth and be like, well, did we cut this too quickly? Maybe. Just kind of bad timing astrologically to watch Saturn come into an opposition with your Mars and your Venus. And yeah, it makes sense, meeting while traveling, but Venus is going to go retrograde right over your Mars and your Venus next summer. So I don't know if it's like over. I wonder if you'll stay in contact to some extent. That'll be July and August of 2023, just so you know. That might be a really prominent time where somebody comes back around. But what do I see? Other than the fact that Saturn is finally getting ready to come out of an opposition with your Mars. So Saturn in your whole sign 4th wants you to be alone. It wants you to have your own defined space. Even Scorpio risings that are in relationships or they're married or like whatever, like they need their space at home. It's just part of the transit with Saturn going through your 4th house. Saturn's then going to come into an opposition with your Venus, and that is still that longing for relationships in February, but then it starts to break. Probably what I'm most interested in your chart is the fact that Jupiter is coming into your 5th house. And you're also going to have Venus coming into your 5th house. And then the sun's going to come into your 5th house. So like March, April, May is really great for dating. It's really great for having fun, but it's about creativity, right? Making time for creativity, taking chances, having fun. If you're into sports, it's great for sports. If you're into fitness and health as a Scorpio rising, Jupiter going through there is going to be about taking time to be active every day, right? But Jupiter rules your 2nd. So are you active in making art? Are you active in learning more about finances and money? Are you learning about trading? I remember when Jupiter went through the 5th house is when I started like learning more about the stock market, right? I'm not saying you have to do that, but because the 5th house can be gambling, it can be opportunities to party, gamble, but also learn how to make more money. And Jupiter will be in your 5th house, which is about romance as well, trining your Mars and trining your Venus. So at the very least, going out to parties, going to get-togethers, going to bars, going on vacation, like it is going to open the door to you meeting people. Pretty much all of March, and then all again, you're going to see this in July and August as well. Started a new job in finance, amazing. So perhaps maybe the Mercury retrograde for you going through your 2nd house is going to be, I mean, you're going to hear for Cancers like, oh, Mercury retrograde in your 7th house, you're, having a change in a relationship, maybe, but it's in your 2nd. So it's like, you're asking yourself, like, did that person let me go? Am I letting them go? Should I hold on to this? What do I value? How am I getting paid? Am I getting paid enough money? Do I get benefits? So it's going to be about your relationship with money and other people, or what you're willing to hold on to when it comes to other people. I would say the same thing I would say to any like Sag rising, because the retrograde will be fully in your 2nd. Watch your spending, watch your resources, focus on your self-esteem. I like that the Mercury retrograde is going to trine Uranus, so it's helping you focus on scheduling and habits and coming up with a work schedule and getting consistent. I also like that it opposes your sun, because I feel like it's pushing you to learn how to communicate in a different way, or maybe working with new people, learning new apps or softwares and things like that can come up as well. But yeah, once Saturn leaves your third house, you're pretty much done with your Saturn return. So you will be in the clear. Just Saturn going into Pisces in general. So you're going to start feeling things ease up in March. Then you're going to have Saturn come into conjunction with your IC. That's about more defining things in regards to your home and your family and where you're living. For Scorpio rising, it's easier because it's going to, make aspects to your ascendant, sextile your Capricorn. So that's nice. But it is going to be opposing your midheaven. So as Saturn goes through your IC, there is this sense of like not feeling like you're making the forward motion that you want with your career. And naturally it's the lowest part of the chart. So you're like, I wish that I could reach these levels, but I, feel stuck. But you have to deal with the foundation of your life, your home, your physical roots, your family, your emotions, and make those changes so you can have more support when it comes to your career. So Saturn in Pisces, fourth house, you're still going to spend a lot of time by yourself. I would say focus on meditation, focus on anything in regards to like home and domestic projects so you can feel like you're becoming productive. And relationships are definitely going to be a thing. It's hard for them not to be. Between Uranus going into your seventh house and then a Venus retrograde, there seems to be like a rather significant love story that's going on for you next summer. And I think you're going to see this kind of heating up June, July, and August. And I would not be surprised if potentially somebody comes back around. That Venus retrograde over your natal Venus is supposed to bring somebody back. Or somebody will reach out and say, I'm traveling near you. Or like, I want to come visit you. Or I want you to come and see me. Something like that will be happening next summer. And it's all going to square Uranus and Jupiter. So it's going to be like on like Donkey Kong. Yeah, so yeah, there's a lot to look forward to, and I'm excited. We'll dig into your solar return and see what you've got going on in this next year. But just know that the Mercury retrograde the next month is all about what do you value? What do you value? That's what I would be asking myself. Okay. Good luck. We will talk next month. So let's see. We've got spaghetti. That's literally what I put your name under, by the way. Okay. Okay, so Spaghetti says, January 2nd, 97, 11:15 p.m. in Brooklyn. Okay. How will the upcoming transits impact my healing and self-love journey? Nice question. How's that Pluto square the moon treating you? That's not so fun. I had that the last couple years. That's not easy. And that's an opening square too. Self-love and healing journey. I love all of these questions. Of course, you're in natal Mercury retrograde. Of course, you're having Mercury retrograde over your natal Mercury. And it's all about you asking how you can heal your past, how you can be your own best parent, how you can heal wounds from your early childhood development. So how is this transit going to impact you? Well, a Mercury retrograde through your fourth has you thinking about your home and your roots and your foundation. Over your sun, it's about your own personal goals and desires and your relationships with masculine or male figures in the family. And a Mercury retrograde over your natal Mercury retrograde will produce several Mercury retrogrades, which means that I feel like you're going to clear out a lot of gunk in your sleep. So you'll have probably some really active dreams. There can be dreams about the past. There can be dreams about the future. There can be lots of symbolism. Keep a dream journal nearby so you can kind of dig through some of that stuff as it comes up. You have been experiencing Pluto in a square to your moon, which means there's been some heavy emotions and conflict coming up that either involve women or feminine figures. Or it's challenges with family that's impacting your emotional responses. As Pluto squares in your fourth house to your moon in the first, it's kind of hard for you to be a Libra moon and be diplomatic with people. There's either conflict or combativeness or things going on literally in your home or around your neighborhood or with your family or with your parents that pushes you to kind of finally come out with all of your feelings. Most of these transits also do try to get you to move or relocate, by the way. So that's something else that can be kind of like hanging around. Healing, though, is more so connected to the 6th, 12th house axis. So I look at Jupiter getting ready to leave your 6th house. Hopefully you haven't gained any new habits this year. There's been more of an awareness of your emotional body. Now we have Saturn that is getting ready to come into Pisces as a Libra rising 6th house, which means this is about structure, order, routine, timing, cleanliness of what? Your spiritual space. So it means that you're going to do like more baths and rituals. You're going to focus on going to spas more. You're going to focus on your liquid and your water intake. There is going to be a limitation of food or alcohol or substances that are not good for you. As it goes through your 6th house, it'll sextile all of your 4th house, which means that discipline will literally support your emotional well-being, and it's going to help you find more stability and more consistency when it comes to your moods and also your routines around the home. Sometimes Saturn going into the 6th house, especially if it rules the 4th, means you're having to take care of aging or ailing pets or aging or ailing parents, or there's more things for you to fix up or take care of at home if you have an older home. But I would work with the sextiles. I think the sextiles are going to be your best friend, honestly. And if you have a clean, organized space, it's going to really benefit you more and sticking to like a regimen and a routine. If you don't know how to do that, then getting a therapist, getting a professional organizer, getting a housekeeper, getting a trainer. These are people who come in through the 6th house that can really help you work through some of this stuff. Thankfully, you're going to have the sextiles taking place literally for this entire next year. Also, you just had a new moon in your 4th house. So it's about what new emotional patterns are you focusing on right now? How are you releasing the past? Very interesting considering it squares your nodes and it's also in a square to your Mars. So I'm just curious what the heck's going on in your life right now, because to me it seems like there is this kind of closing phase where you're closing things out because you're anticipating and you're welcoming in new things in this next couple months. More active in therapy, just got a personal trainer. Yes, see, these are the things that we see with the Jupiter in the 6th, showing the future. Saturn will be that consistency. So if that's what you're doing, wonderful. I think that you're really going to like the results that you're seeing, maybe perhaps by the time that Saturn's in Pisces. So that'll be about March. And when Saturn retrogrades in June, that's also going to be like, that'll be, I don't know how long you started, but 6 months from now, when we have the full moon that's going to be in Capricorn, and then it's going to sextile Saturn, that is when you're going to really see the results, right? So just literally about 6 months. Dealt with a lot in my mental health, dating life this year, realizing it all goes back to core wounds. Yep, 100%. And that Mars retrograde in opposition to your Venus has been part of it, square Neptune too. So that's been bringing up lots of wounding and patterns, right? Mental patterns, because it squares Venus in the 3rd, communication patterns, you know, daily habits, stuff like that. And Mars in opposition to Venus is nice to have love at a distance right now. That I'm not saying it's not on your mind, but it's definitely not the first on the agenda. It's good that you're getting into these habits before Saturn hits your 6th house. Trust me on this, because by the time it hits, you're already going to be used to the routine. It's not going to feel like as much of a shock. Use the new moon that we had today to be able to set new intentions for creating emotional security and blessing your space, and being your own parent or being your own best healer, right? All right. So is it Lisa? Am I saying this right? Let's take Lisa, and then we're going to have Christina, Catherine, Rachel, Reina, Catherine W., Helen, and Amanda, and then another Christine. So we still got a number of people. Let's see. Let me go back to this second part of payment. I'm going to give you guys a break for a minute. I'm going to plug all these charts in because we've got about another 10 people or so. So if you guys need to take a break, get something to drink, use the restroom, whatever you guys gotta do, go ahead, because I gotta plug these in really quick. All right. Okay, so we've got that one. Okay, Rachel, I think we have Rachel here. Yeah, we have Rachel. Reina. Reina, I need your birth information, please, if you can send that. Hey, Stephanie, thank you. We moved. It took about a week, but we moved. So if Reina, if you're still here, give me your info, please. Catherine. Christine and Amanda, I don't have your guys' info. You guys have to send it in the memo. Catherine Spence, I don't have, let's see, oh no, Catherine Spence, I have your info. Catherine, let's see, Whitfield, who else did I need? Yeah, I got you. So I have Catherine Spence. Reina, I do not have your birth information. I need that. Reina. Helen, I need your question. Amanda, I need your sinistry information. I think you had it in the chat, but it's gone. Christine, I need your information. Let's see. I thought Amanda, here we go. 12/31/84. $12,683. Looks like Christine's info is right here. $5/17/63. Okay. Thank you. Got it. All right, cool. So I think I got everybody. Let's see. Where do we pick up here? So for Christiana K, do you have any particular questions? Let me know. That was for December 25th, 83 in Puerto Rico. There she is. Hey, Chris. What's your question? You got a Gemini rising, sun in Capricorn, and your moon is in Virgo. How can I help you? General's fine. The Mars retrograde going back and forth on your ascendant to me seems really interesting. Anybody who's got the retrogrades hitting their natal Gemini or Capricorn placements, to me, is very prominent. And you have both of these things going on. And so Gemini and Capricorn, they agitate each other because they create an inconjunct. So you've got Mercury going retrograde in your natal 8th house. You're born with Mercury retrograde in Capricorn, so you're used to this energy. It doesn't affect you as much as it does most people. But it's about going deep, looking within, reevaluating. It's about change, transformation, intimacy, joint resources. Virgo rules your 4th house. Mercury rules Virgo, your 4th house of the past, and also your ascendant. So it's about how you're moving through emotions and things connecting to change, how you're learning how to release, detox, let go, and deal with what can be more challenging emotions, especially adapting to changes or fear. Then you've got Mars going retrograde, and it's going retrograde first over your ascendant and now into your 12th house, where you retreat, rest, and recuperate. And it has been hanging out on your North Node. So this is a part of a longer kind of storyline, pretty much ever since Mars left your ascendant, right? Pretty much since right around this time in early December, actually it retrograded then. So it was actually, since it was in shadow, right around the end of September. So what you've been learning September up until now is when you hold things in, you don't work through them, you don't properly grieve, you don't let go, it can create more frustration and more issues for you, either financially, emotionally, psychologically, or in terms of intimacy. You're also coming out of Saturn square your Venus, Saturn square your Saturn. So I'm wondering, like, if you've just been kind of feeling like hiding out, especially when it comes to either like relationships or dealing with health or habits in general, right? That seems to be another theme for you as well. Neptune's finally leaving the opposition with your moon, so that's good. So that also tells me that you're going to have more clarity in terms of where you're going with your career. I would just advise you to be very present with this retrograde, because it's going to go retrograde through your natal Mercury. I'd already hit it once here. It looks like the first hit was around December 17th. Now it's going to go retrograde, and it's going to come into conjunction with your Mercury again during like a Kazemi moment around the 7th and the 8th. So more topics of change, transformation. This can also be the 8th house, like intimacy, taxes, joint resources, insurance, documents. And then you're going to have it hit one more time once it's direct and you've worked out the clearing, decluttering, detoxing, working through fear by the end of January. So I'd say this is about embracing what's unknown, and learning to take a step back and kind of work through things and giving yourself time to adapt to new things. But I think this is about how your body responds to fear, or how you're responding to change, or what you're willing to kind of rework in terms of some of your desires. You might feel lower energy, you might feel like lower sex drive. That's something else that can come up with some of these retrogrades as well. But right around the time you get to the end of January, we've got Saturn that's, coming into Pisces, and we've also got the Mercury retrograde that's ending. And for a Gemini rising, it's all going to be about really focusing on your career, February, March, April, and really showing up. And that'll be really important for you because Saturn's going to be on your midheaven. So maybe you're going through all the personal changes and transformations first before you really execute some of these changes out in the world or in your professional life in February, March, and April. Midlife crisis career-wise. I mean, it's right on time, though. I will say that if you do feel like that's what you're having. For a Capricorn, you're having a Mercury retrograde in your sign is like, oh my God, am I what I do? Where am I losing my identity in my job? Do I love this? Am I meant to be doing this forever? These are questions that you're going to be asking yourself as Mercury retrogrades in your sign. But I feel like for the first time in 28, almost 29 years, here comes Saturn into your 10th house. So this is the first time you've had it as an adult. This is the one that really matters. Saturn on the midheaven is going to have you really show up for your career and show up for your life. And Saturn rules your 8th house of transformation. So I wouldn't be afraid of change. I would be embracing the change, especially knowing that this is the time to do it over this next 2-year period. And especially when you see Saturn making sextiles to your natal sun and Mercury, you're going to be able to ask for more. You're going to be able to go deeper into the kind of work that you want to do. And Saturn says, now is the time. Now is the time. But you'll, I think, get a head start on that in this year. But it's about really asking yourself, what are you afraid of? How can I remove all of the blocks that are kind of hindering me from being able to take the first steps forward? And then you'll initiate that in the spring, okay? Good luck. Hopefully this is helpful for you. All right, so let's take, I did not forget about you, Lise. So 1958. Let's see, where are you? There we go. And that was at 3:27 p.m. Her question was, will I meet my partner in 2023? Lisa, there we go. Will I meet my partner in 2023? Well, you got some stuff working in your favor here. Saturn's coming up on your 7th house. Neptune rules relationships. You're going to have Saturn in your 7th house, which is saying for the next 2.5 years, focusing on more serious relationships. And it's going to try Neptune. So it's trying to get you to open up to communicating more, talking more, sharing your feelings with Neptune at a 4. You're also going to see that it is going to start sextiling the North Node in the 9th house. So it can be saying it's opening up to like a much more spiritual kind of connection. I would say those two transits in themselves make me feel like a relationship is coming. However, you're going to have Saturn come into an opposition with your Pluto first. So to me, that seems like it's challenging you to break out of your old habits and routines and make changes in your schedule and get out of your comfort zone. That'll be in March. So it's kind of like ripping off the Band-Aid. Then Saturn moves into your 7th house, and that'll be in April. And I want to see something like Mars trine Saturn. Yep, you're going to have it. So you're going to have Mars in Cancer in the 11th house. So I could see like maybe going to a party or socializing or going and visiting a friend's house, which may open something up to you meeting somebody. This is in early April. Then when we have Venus trine Saturn and you're going to have Venus hit Juno, this is another time where there can be a significant connection right around the first week of May. And then Venus will move into your 11th house and it will trine Saturn right around the 12th of May through like, let's say the 15th. And you're going to finally see Saturn come off your Venus. So, you know, Saturn's been in Aquarius in your 6th house, which means you've been having to work through either health stuff or hang-ups in regards to dating, relationships, and romance, or frankly, you haven't had the time. That's the other way that I could look at it. You've also got Jupiter that's hanging out in your 8th house, and it's in conjunction with your sun here pretty soon. So that's like a new, like a rebirth period for you. It can bring in like a sexy connection to like a person, but I'm looking for Saturn aspects to make relationships stick. And I feel like Jupiter coming in conjunction with Mercury right around April, okay, because Jupiter rules your 7th, can bring a relationship. So that's one transit. The Saturn transit's another. The Saturn trine Mars is another. The Saturn trines Neptune. So about mid-April through May is when it's looking like you're going to meet somebody significant. Obviously, there's other ways to look at this, you know, looking at progressed Venus or looking at your, you know, 7th house Lord and your progress chart's also something that's really going to be telling. But you have all the markers for getting ready to meet someone. The other thing that I would say, just to take into consideration, is that you do have Neptune square Saturn. So this makes me feel like there's going to be challenges revolving around, am I meeting somebody? Do they live somewhere else? You know, are they from the past? Can I trust them? That can come up. And you're also going to be seeing that over the next few years, Saturn will eventually come into a square with Saturn. So it's going to be this theme of, you know, I've met somebody, but they live in a different place, or we're living in 2 different places, and we're trying to figure out how to kind of come together. So there can be a sense of like you going back and forth with somebody before deciding to really fully make a serious commitment to someone, right? So it can be that you're feeling it out for a year or 2 before you really decide that you're willing to kind of pick up and like live with them. And I think Jupiter coming in conjunction with Mercury is going to be somebody who's coming in potentially in the spring, who's trying to get you out of your comfort zone. And it may start as a relationship that's kind of like hot and heavy at first, but then it evolves into something that could be more, but it could start very quickly, you know, just like out of the blue, like not expecting it. Once again, also in April. So April seems to be the time where this is really going to be kind of coming together for you the most. Okay. Good luck. Hopefully that's helpful for you, Lisa. We've got other Catherine. So Catherine S, Rachel Parks, Reina, Catherine W. You guys are all up next. So let's look at Catherine S. What's up, Adrian? Nice to see you. All right, so we have got here, Catherine says, new moon reading, March 10th, 1984, 5:30 a.m. Been dealing with drama in every direction. I need to move my art gallery and hat shop by February, closing out some serious cycles with this building and my ex-partner in the business next door. How will things go the next lunar cycle for my shop, February? Doing my best not to create any negative karma with all this being thrown at me right now. Check out Mars on my North Node. Deadline to find a new place to make hats is February. Okay, well, that sounds like drama, but this is also Saturn is finishing up its conjunction to your Venus. And believe it or not, it's like about you clearing things out. That's kind of happening subconsciously because Saturn rules your 12th house. But Saturn in the first on Venus is you standing up for your boundaries and your needs and also putting much more of an effort on how you're communicating, right? Because Saturn, Venus is highlighting your 3rd house of communication. All right, so you got to be somewhere by February. It's a Mercury retrograde in your 12th. You're like, what am I going to do? I'm losing my mind because I'm trying to figure out where I'm going to work or have my business. But this Mercury retrograde is actually pretty positive. It's positive for a number of reasons. First of all, you got Saturn in Scorpio and you've got Sun, Mercury in Pisces. So it's going to sextile your Saturn and it's going to sextile your Sun, Mercury, which means push comes to shove. If you're in a situation where you need to tell somebody what's up, you will, and you're going to do it after you've taken time to go and sit and meditate and reflect on how you're going to handle this, what you're going to say, you know, basically getting insight from your higher mind, your guides, whatever, before you make a move. The Mercury retrograde also is happening in the 12th house of like hidden or secret spaces. So it also makes me feel like you may find something that is not as visible, but it becomes visible during the retrograde. So maybe you're driving down the street and you're like, I go past the street all the time. I never see these storefronts, or I never see these offices. And then all of a sudden you see them. So the retrograde also is going to bring up some really prominent dreams. It's also simultaneous. Yes, you've got Mars on your North Node, but you've had Mars on your moon, which creates conflict literally with men and bringing out lots of emotional, heated situations. All of this is, yes, in conjunct to your natal Jupiter and your natal Neptune. So as planets are moving through your 11th house Capricorn, people are going to start showing up and being like, well, what do you need for help? You know, talk to your friends, talk to people who you're involved with socially. Mercury retrograding back into your 11th house is going to be connecting with your and networking with people who can kind of say, I know of a space, I've got a person, we're willing to rent to you. I think I know a guy, meet so-and-so who's going to be renting. Like that's what you want to be focusing on. You can check out online as well. But a new moon that's happening directly on top of your Neptune, okay, in Capricorn in the 11th house is highlighting the need to tune into the vision for your goals, right? I don't think your vision was sharing a space next to an ex-romantic partner forever, right? You're probably like, oh my gosh, I can't stand this. You know, how do I deal with this? Probably because it's not a part of the vision for your future. So it's time to kind of get moving. Jupiter is also squaring your Neptune. So that's why you're feeling really overwhelmed in the midst of this. It's pushing you to probably spend a little bit more than you're wanting to spend. But it is what it is because it's probably going to help you kind of cut loose. The moon rules your 6th house, which is your workspace. And so I have a feeling that you could do something temporary. I mean, I know that's not what you want to do, but you could. But when Mars is coming back onto your North Node, I have a feeling that you're considering, I'm not saying doing all of your business online, but you may either find that there's like a joint space where you're going to be selling, you know, two different types of projects or materials or offerings from one place, or you're doing some at home or some online business until Mars comes into a conjunction with your moon, and then you're getting settled into a place the 3rd week of February. So there may be a couple of weeks gap, right? Or you may find a place, but then you have to put some work into it with Mars on your moon. But at least when Mars is direct in February, it's trine Mercury, and Mercury's on your ascendant. So part of me feels inclined to tell you, like, you're back in business by about the 3rd week of February. So if there has to be a couple weeks there in between, or you have to kind of juggle it and do a temporary space until then, you'll be fine. But if you're asking specifically about this lunar cycle, we start obviously with this new moon, which was today. There we go. And it's going to develop into what is going to be the next full moon, which is going to be in Cancer. And that's going to be, oops, right here. There we go. That's going to be on January 6th. And you have a full moon in your 6th house, right? Ruled by the moon. It's in opposition to Mercury, and it's going to sextile Uranus. So I feel like, yes, you're going to have something that's going to pop up very suddenly, but it's going to be like not until mid-February. Okay, it's going to be ready, but not until mid-February. Yeah, the idea of moving equipment, sewing machines, yeah. I mean, honestly, you're going to have to do it one way or another because Mars is going to come into conjunction with your moon again. So my advice is that if you don't want to do something temporary, then I personally feel like you're looking at getting out at some time in January, but you're not going to be set up into your new space ready to do business until the 3rd week of February. Still, obviously it's not ideal, but it's happening because it's literally trying to get you out of a situation that's not going to be ideal. Mars cuts, right? So whether this is like a landlord issue, or this is like a problem that you're having with people, you know, who you're working with, or they don't want to renew something, Mars on your moon inevitably, with the opposition to Uranus, was going to do that. Now it's either trying to get you to work out of a new space, or have a new space in your home where you can work, or you're working at a place closer to home. Something like that is about that, because Mars opposed Uranus means there's lots of turnover. And with the moon conjunct the North Node, I know you don't want to hear this, but per your astrology, it says you're supposed to be working at home or in a home, or you have a place where you go back and forth, where you can be, you know, if you have to stay there and work, you can. That's just your astrology, right? Moon in opposition to Uranus, you're going to have delays and all kinds of issues and things that are going to pop up trying to get you to work on your home, or trying to get you to work on your emotions or your feelings. Next year, you're going to see Saturn start coming up into Pisces, and it's eventually going to square your moon. So this is telling me that maybe it's that you're going to have growing pains. Maybe it's that your business is growing so much, especially towards the end of 2023, that it starts squaring your moon, and then you're looking at having to size up again, and that would be in 2024. Yeah, honestly, it's trying to get you in a house. I know that's not what you want to do, but one way or another, even in 2024, I feel like this is going to be hard to avoid. And it's trying to get you to work in like a home type space, or that you're considering getting into a property that's going to be zoned that it has a separate space, or that you're going to be, you know, living above a workspace. Something like that is going to happen. And it's just because you have the sun square moon, and it's trying to get you to make changes with all these beautiful squares. Likely the writing was on the wall during the Mercury retrograde in Virgo. So I don't know if you noticed that, but when Mercury was retrograding from Libra, from Libra into Virgo, that's when it enacted some of these squares. And so it was starting the process of trying to get you to change who you're working with, where you're working, you know, where you're living, all of that stuff at the same time. But yeah, right around the February 18th period is when it starts to look like it's opening up for you. Also, just know that as a Pisces in general, Mars going retrograde in Gemini is your home, right? But for you, it's your 5th house, your creative space. Yeah. Yep. And, you know, eventually you'll see that this is actually a lot better. I know it doesn't seem like it right now, and it's kind of hectic, But it's better that you're making the move now because you don't want to wait until Mars squares Saturn in the new year. Because when that starts happening, it's not going to be fun. Or when Mars is on your moon and it's squaring the sun. So it was like one way or another, you were going to have to do it. I would say doing it sooner rather than later is going to make it a lot easier. Obviously, also, it's trying to pull you away from this previous existing relationship. So sending you lots of good vibes in the midst of that, because if you absolutely have to do something temporary, it's not the end of the world. I know you don't want to move stuff, but it's preparing you for 2024 when you're going to do much more of a domestic work type situation anyway. Hopefully that's helpful. Good luck with Mars on your North Node. Running, journaling, being creative. Heated though, you're heated. We've got Rachel, Reina, and then Catherine W. All right, cool. So let's see. The pajama guy saga continues, I'm sure. Let's see. Rachel. Oh, let me pull up pajama guy. I love that we call him that. What's his real name? Oh. Go yell and run if you have to. Pajama guy is back after a month hiatus. I told him I'm into commitment only, and he asked what I'm doing this weekend. I'm worried this is just another fleeting desire of his that won't last. What do you see? Titus. All right. Well, I see a Mercury retrograde in your 5th house. The other thing is that, you know, I remember saying to you with this person what you were going to notice because he was a Scorpio rising, or, well, I think that's what we think he is. That's what I have. There is going to be this sense of like cat and mouse going back and forth type of vibe. Because your Jupiter sits on a South Node, he's always going to come back to you for communication and to reconnect in some way. And he's still working through his Pluto square. So just so you know, Venus and Mercury and Pluto are all in his 4th house in a T-square with his natal Pluto and also his sun. So that tells me like big things changing either with a roommate, with a family, relationship stuff, and it's affecting him emotionally, and it's trying to get him to make the changes emotionally or make the changes in his home space so he can relate more, right? We don't know his rising. Okay. So what do I see happening? I get the impression, well, let me pull up your guys's, let me look at your composite because that's going to tell me more. There we go. We don't know the ascendant, so I'm not going to go based off of that, but you've got Venus, Mercury, and Pluto coming into a square with your guys's composite, Pluto, Mars. So this tells me if it's not tomorrow, the 24th, then really watch New Year's. Because to me, I'm getting this impression that there's going to be something that's going to pop and somebody being like, I don't know if I can keep doing this with you. Because Venus and Pluto are going to square your guys' Mars-Pluto, which is like not having enough give-take type of dynamic, you know? The good news is Jupiter's going, you know, into Aries. It's going to oppose that. But I feel like I get the impression, I don't know what you know about him, but I have this feeling that there's just something that's not settled either with him emotionally or with his like home base. Like, does he have an issue with his living situation? Does he have an issue with a roommate? Because even looking at the composite, it seems to suggest like there needs to be a huge emotional shift or a huge shift with like the home and the living situation. Okay, I'm going to go back to your chart now. There we go. So for you, Rachel, I mean, yes, the Mercury retrograde in your 5th can bring a lover back, but you've also got Uranus coming retrograde on your sun. So it's about somebody who's coming back and forth and back and forth. They're in, they're out. Sun rules your 12th house of what's unseen. I would use the Mercury retrograde as an opportunity through the trines to kind of state your case and be like, look, you know, this is the realization that I've come to. Very strong for you on January 6th because you're going to have a Sun Mercury Cazimi trine your sun, and you're going to have a full moon where I think it's going to be this turning point where you're like, I can't just be friends with benefits, or I can't just not know what's going on. And you're also finally going to see Saturn come out of a square with your Mars. So you're not going to be afraid to kind of speak up and say what it is that you have to say. Mars is going to be on your midheaven. It's going to be on your north node. It's okay for you to have a much more assertive kind of perspective. I think that needs to happen, knowing that Pluto and Mercury are going to square both his sun and his Pluto, which means he needs to really make the changes emotionally with his private life and with his home to make space for a relationship. That's what has to happen in order for him to move forward. Intuitively, I feel like I said, you can do this dance as long as you want. I mean, literally, now that Saturn is coming into Pisces here soon, I don't really feel like many Virgo risings are going to screw around in relationships. I feel like you're going to get to about April, May and be like, you're either with it or you're not. Why? Because you have it in your chart that there's somebody that's coming. Juno's coming for your sun. You've got, Jupiter that's going to hit your Venus. I mean, that almost guarantees that you're going to meet another person and that you're going to get entangled in a situation with another person next spring. Closer to June, but it's going to happen. And I think it's interesting because it's not a matter of whether or not, he's ready or he's not, or if you're open to, committing to him. I think it's going to be about whether or not you feel like he's the right person for what you're looking for. Because you got trines to your 5th house. You have kids, right, Rachel? I mean, the trines from Jupiter to your sun is like, you don't mind being with somebody who also has kids. You just need to be with somebody who's like really ready to show up and be respectful of your free time. Yeah. So it's like you have other responsibilities. Once Saturn comes into your 7th and it starts sextiling Jupiter, it's like you're going to want a partner who's going to say, I want to spend time with you and your kids, or I want to bring our kids together, or I want to plan a vacation for all of us, or I want to have more kids. Like, it's going to be somebody who's going to be respectful of your time and your schedule, but also want to have that family dynamic together, right? So, we need to see that he's actually showing up in a way that's going to bring you stability and consistency. And right now, I feel like he's going to be back and forth all over the place until like closer to about the end of January with that retrograde that he's going to be having. Scheduling changes. If he's in Aries, he's also going to be having changes in terms of what his plans are, or having stuff changing in regards to work schedule, vehicles, things like that. So he may be a little flippy floppy with his schedule. And I don't know, I wouldn't spend too much time waiting personally. I'm also looking at Pluto like coming into a perfection where it's squaring your Mercury, which means that you're getting really kind of heated and intense about whether or not you feel like somebody's playing with your feelings or playing with your emotions, right? Relationships are going to be fulfilled when you see positive aspects with Jupiter. And what do I see? Well, Jupiter is not until the spring coming into a conjunction with Venus, so that can be a new person. That's going to be closer to about April, May. But right now, Jupiter is hanging out in Aries, and it's in conjuncture Pluto, so you don't like feeling like somebody's not choosing you. But yeah, clarity seems to be closer to the end of January. Once you've gotten out of this retrograde muck, I love that Mercury is going retrograde over your Jupiter. I'm sure I said this to you, but that's basically giving you clarity about what you want in a partner, what it is that you want. That in itself, with the trines to your sun, can bring in another person. And sometimes these are the transits that we have where we wait around to see what that person is capable of doing, if they're actually going to show up. And if they don't show up, then you're like, okay, next. And then it's making room for when you have the conjunctions in April and May, right? In my opinion, this is like last call at the bar. Mercury retrograde in the 5th house. It's like, he's either going to show up or he's not. And if he doesn't, then you're basically going to say probably sometime at the end of January, I'm done. You'll take a 2-month hiatus from him, and then you're going to get back into dating again in March. And from March through May, there's going to be another person. But we will continue to give Pajama Guy chances. Just don't allow him to like have that revolving door with you, right? Part of Pluto square your Mercury is like you can get to a point where you don't want to play nice anymore. But that Mercury retrograde over your Jupiter is giving you the opportunity to bring in the right person, right? You just may not see it yet, but really pay attention to your dreams and also pay attention to your intuitive hunches. And just because a Mercury retrograde brings somebody back doesn't mean that they're supposed to be here to stay, okay? Good luck. I've got Reina And I think she put her information in, I believe. I'm not sure. Is she here? I have your question, but I don't have your information, so I need to get that from you. I'm going to move on to Catherine, and then Helen, and then we have Amanda. So Reina, if you're here, let us know. All right, so we've got Catherine W. April 24th, 89, 8:24 p.m. San Antonio. Will my current job situation get better? Will my current job situation get better? So you are Scorpio rising, sun in Taurus, and your moon is in Sagittarius. The sun rules your 10th house. You've been having eclipses on your sun, which have been challenging, okay, because it has also, been hanging out around your 6th house. So it's like feeling like you're working, being of service to other people, wondering when things are going to get easier, when things are going to get more pleasant. You're also finally out of Saturn square your sun. You're coming out of Saturn square your Mercury. So in a lot of ways, the answer is yes. And all of your hard work and your service is not going to go unnoticed, because what you're going to be seeing is, on one hand, if you don't like your job, if you don't like what's going on work-wise, by the time you get into, let's say, when Jupiter is fully in your in your 6th. If you're not liking the way that your schedule and things are going by, like, let's say the end of March, you will have an opportunity to change jobs, okay? Jupiter going in your 7th house is going to bring you the blessing of new work and a new schedule or a new workspace. A Sun-Jupiter conjunction can bring that also in April, and then we've also got an eclipse that's going to be taking place there as well. So that mid-April time is definitely going to be a new opportunity for work. March and April gets much better, okay? On the other hand, I also look at the North Node coming into conjunction with your Sun. Your Sun rules the 10th house. Your Sun is in the 6th house. Are you working from home? Are you looking for a hybrid schedule? Do you want to work from home? I'm wondering. I personally feel like it's on like Donkey Kong. You know, new jobs generally might be involving Mercury transits, but still you've got Uranus coming into conjunction with Mercury. It looks to me like you're going to possibly consider working with a partner or taking on a new collaboration with someone else. Right now you've got Uranus in opposition to Pluto, so lovingly that makes me feel like other people are going to see you as not being flexible, especially Pluto on the ascendant. And it's been in a square to Saturn, but you have an opportunity to also renegotiate your work schedule when Mercury goes retrograde, and this will be in Taurus, and that's going to be in May. Okay, so I don't think it's going to fully dip into your 7th house, but it's going to be close. Excuse me, your 6th house. No, it will. So it looks like you could stay with this until March. If you're not thrilled with what's going on, what's changing, you'll look for a new position, and you're in the process of making that change sometime between mid-March and the beginning of May. Between the North Node being on your Sun, you're going to have a lot of work. Jupiter being on your Sun, you're going to have a lot of work. You're also going to be looking at making more money, okay? So it's not going to be like, here's some more money, and you're going to keep the same schedule. You're going to have to work hard for it. But you will have more resources because Jupiter is money. And it's a shame because you really should be working from home. Perhaps maybe Saturn, when it goes into Pisces and it sextiles your Sun, you can be working from home. But I don't think you're going to make a job change until closer to March. So I don't know how long you're willing to hang on. Those eclipses are pretty gnarly on your Sun. It tells me that you're trying to create like a workflow that's going to be more conducive to your happiness. So you're going to feel like you have the opportunity to say, hey, I want time to work out, or I want time to meal prep, or I want time to sleep in, whatever. But you've got these demands that are coming through from your schedule right now that's not making it easy for you to have that. Do you think I'll quit or they'll ask me to leave? Job endings usually is going to be the 9th house because it's the 12th house to the 10th. So I could see like when Mars is in the 9th house and it's coming into a square with your sun, that it can be that they're creating situations to almost make you quit. I don't think you'll quit. I think that what will happen is you'll have another job and you'll leave. That's what's most likely to happen. Unless there is a new office space or there is a new schedule or there is going to be new opportunities for you to have a hybrid schedule or work in a new department that's going to make you happy, Jupiter, in the spring, you're not going to stay. If this were me, if you're really not happy, in February, start looking for another job because sometime between, like I said, March and May, you're going to move and you'll get paid more. You'll work more, but you'll get paid more. But I don't see you getting fired per se. That I don't see happening. I see it more being you get another job and then you're like, okay, I'm on to the next thing. Yeah. But yeah, big transits that I see when people have big career changes that are positive is the North Node on the 10th house Lord, Jupiter on the 10th house Lord, eclipses involving the sun. You have all of these things happening. All of these things happening in the spring. So it's going to be kind of building off of some of the new moon eclipses we had in Scorpio. And it's all about partnerships. So the other thing is that you'll start meeting people who are very significant, who you can collaborate with. 7th house can be new business partners. It can be new professional partners. It can be romantic partners, changes in your romantic life, which changes your career. It's a big theme if you're a Scorpio rising and a sun in Taurus. Because the sun belongs to your 7th house and it rules the 10th, you end up through changes with work or changes in relationships, changing your career. So another option is to like look at what's going on in your personal life and ask yourself, do you feel fulfilled there? Believe it or not, making changes in your personal life will also open up your professional life. And in this next year, you're going to see Saturn sit on your North Node. So it's trying to get you to think about what you're building and what you're creating within your home base. And less about working for other people. So you're going to see that shift as well. Hopefully that's helpful for you, Catherine. Good luck. Did we hear from Reina? Are you there? You are very welcome. I've got Helen and then Amanda and then Christine. And I know I have Helen's info and I know she answered my question, but it's way up there. So I got to go and find it here. Let's see. So let's see what Helen asked. It's about my relationships, love, or anything that stands out to you. Got it? Pisces rising, and your moon is in Taurus, and your sun is in Leo in the 6th house. Saturn on the South Node. You've been doing nothing but just clearing, decluttering, cutting things karmically. You know, Saturn is maybe having you feel a little alone or a little isolated. Saturn rules your 11th house of goals. So cutting ties with friends, changing your goals, letting go, focusing on getting connected to the collective, to the cosmos, staying connected with people at a distance, all that stuff. But that happens only every 29 years. So whatever's kind of been cut out recently, it's in preparation for a new cycle that's starting for you soon when Saturn goes into Pisces in the spring. It's also going to be nice to see Saturn come out of an opposition with your sun. So that's worthy of mentioning as well. Love life is an interesting one because you had Mars turn retrograde in Gemini very close to your Venus, and it was in a square to Saturn. So Venus square Saturn relationships mature, they get better with age, or you notice that like every 7 or 14 years, there's some really pivotal changes in your relationships. Mars is going to come back to those degrees. Okay. So I think like a really strong Mercury transit peppered with that Mars transit can bring a lot of change in your love life. Although I don't anticipate it's going to be setting up until closer to about mid-March when Mars comes into conjunction with Venus. And that might make you more so open to relationships. I love that it's trining Pluto and that it's also going to be forming some positive harmonious aspects with Jupiter. So it almost feels like there's more optimism coming through, more self-esteem coming through, more willingness to kind of move around, get out of the house. And you've broken out of that Saturn on the South Node where you've been kind of hiding out a little bit. Still, Mars conjunct Venus is really passionate, but it squares Saturn. So there's this sense of, am I ready for a partnership or relationship? So wait till you get out of that mutable fog between all these mutable squares with your natal Neptune and transit planets in Pisces. Relationships seem more clear. Second half of March moving on. And you might even notice when Mars comes into conjunction with Mercury that early May is another turning point for relationships. Now, this is going way into next year, but another thing that catches my eye is the Venus retrograde, which will happen in Leo, and you're going to have Venus retrograde over your North Node. So I'm interested in the fact that you've had Saturn on your South Node clearing, you know, anything in terms of your subconscious, your sleep patterns, or your fears, your habits. Now you'll have Venus over the summer going retrograde over your North Node saying, cool, you've done the clearing. Now we're going to bring in people who are here who are part of your destiny, your future. In the 6th house, significant people you can work with, new pets, romantic crushes, and people at work. It can also be people who can help you heal. So you can meet new practitioners, doctors, healers, people who can also help you with your services. So if you need somebody to help you train in a gym, if you need somebody to do your taxes, if you need somebody to design your home or decorate your home, if you need a new hairstylist, a Venus retrograde will do that here. And it's going to make sextiles to your Venus. So I get the feeling like April through August is going to be better for you in terms of relationships. Be mindful that you've got transit Neptune in a square to your Venus and it's in opposition to Saturn. So the issue is going to be things revolving around them living in other places, or perhaps people from the past coming back and asking for second chances. And you're like, is this a good idea? I don't know. And Neptune is going to be in opposition to Saturn. So you may be a little avoidant when it comes to the topics of getting into a serious committed relationship. You might feel sometimes like people are asking or demanding too much. And you're going to just need a little bit of freedom until you get out of that square in general. I'm really excited to see what happens here, though, especially considering your chart ruler, Jupiter, is also going to come in conjunction with your moon. So that's going to bring better moods in June. Happier times. North Node and Jupiter over your moon makes me feel like you're looking at moving or buying a home or property because your moon is at a 4, or investing in land. And that's going to sextile, make positive aspects also to your natal Venus. So that makes me feel like you're really getting grounded and getting stable over the summer and focusing more on money, resources, home. And there in turn, you're also feeling like that's bringing in the opportunity to start building possibly with another person, right? I'd go and look at Saturn coming into conjunction with your South Node. It's just wrapping up now, but still I think it's rather important. And I would go and learn about Saturn coming into conjunction with your ascendant. Because, yeah, you have Uranus square the nodes. So Saturn sitting on the South Node is also trying to get you out of old patterns. It's trying to jolt that out of you so you can make some real shifts and get ready for like this new phase with Saturn going into your sign. Last time we had that was in the mid-90s. So it only goes through Pisces every 28, 29 years. Very, very important time for setting new goals. In a way, it's going to be there until 2024. So it doesn't cross your ascendant Placidus-wise until then. Okay? Good luck. You are so welcome. Amanda, I have you. Did we get the info for Christine? We still need Christine H. And we still need Reina. Okay. So Amanda had a sinistry. And there we go. 5279. Let's see. Oh, 5481. December 6th. I have him. Okay, I'm not sure who you are, True. Are you Amanda? I don't think so, because I have different dates. Christine. Okay, cool. Thank you. Okay, so True, is your name different? Okay, there we go. I was going to say. True, I need to know your name on PayPal. So I'm going to do Amanda, and then I will come back to you. Thanks, Christine. Okay, so Amanda, can you confirm your birth date, please? I have him, December 6th, 83. You're August 8th, 85? There we go, 12/31/84. Thank you. Okay. All right, so we've got the two charts. We're doing the sinistry. I apologize, but if you guys don't put this information in the memo, it takes me forever to find it, because I have to go all the way back through the chat, and then everybody else has to wait. So you can send me messages if you want on this and let me know what your questions are. So you're a Cancer rising, sun in Capricorn, and your moon is in Aries. You got Pluto that's transiting square your moon right now, so that's a lot of emotional turmoil, just a heads up. And then you got your partner who is also a Cancer rising, and let's take a look. Cancer rising, moon in Capricorn, and their Juno is your moon, their Venus is conjunct Pluto, it's on your Pluto. So a couple things, because you guys are both Cancer risings, the Mercury retrograde is going to affect you guys both in a very similar way, right? So you have to really be aware that the Mercury retrograde is bringing up themes revolving around miscommunications in the relationship. You don't need me to tell you, like, the sinistry is pretty decent. You guys got a sun and moon connection. Their Mercury's on your descendant. Their Juno is your moon. Their Mars is your Juno. You guys have a Venus-Pluto conjunction. I mean, there's a lot of decent stuff going on here, okay? So just as a heads up, the Mercury retrograde is going to take over the next month of learning how to figure out how to communicate better. Because Mercury is retrograding over your sun and your Jupiter, it's about your relationship with another person. Here's the challenge, is that his Uranus sits on, his south node and his sun sit on your natal Uranus. So that's 12th house to the 7th. So I'm just going off of the housing system here. It kind of represents like somebody who sends you for a loop, or challenges in terms of your schedule together, or relationship breakdown, or things that come up like very unexpectedly. So having a lot of planets in the 6th house in a sinistry aspect can be very challenging if it's not like worked out properly. Like I said, scheduling issues, working issues, health problems, addiction issues, the list goes on. And a lot of nitpicking is what I see too. But the South Node Uranus conjunction makes me feel like, to an extent, there is like some instability to the relationship. They've also got Ceres and Lilith on your Venus, so it's kind of hard to break this relationship off. Saturn is there. It's not bad sinistry. It's just like both parties need to be mindful of their habits. Both parties need to be mindful of, their inconsistencies sometimes, especially because all of that's 12th house to Capricorn. So it represents your blind spot when it comes to partners. And it can also represent for him, because that's all behind his moon, things that he keeps to himself, that he doesn't communicate, he doesn't share, that ends up kind of like affecting him down the road in relationships. Transit Pluto is coming into a square with his natal Pluto. I think that's really important. I also think with that transit, it does represent the need to change and transform relationships, or relationships kind of like die off. Transit Pluto is coming into a square with your moon. So that's about how you learn how to communicate your needs, especially for like intimacy and other things, and feeling like you have the support of a partner. Usually that transit comes with like a lot of tension in a relationship, or it comes with challenges to your home or your domestic zone. So in my opinion, looking at some of these transits, you want to use this opportunity over the next month or so to communicate and express what you need. Aries moons, especially if you're in Cancer rising, needs to feel like they have independence and they have freedom and they need to be assertive. And if you're being assertive because you're, standing up for yourself, that's one thing. But somebody who has all that Sag, especially because he's a little slippery, Jupiter, South Node, Sun, Uranus, all in Sagittarius, is like he's not consistent. You can't really tell him what to do. There is a sense of him not wanting to be held accountable or not wanting to be pinned down. Mars is also retrograde in opposition to his Sun right now. So there is a sense of a lot of challenge coming with relationships. Mars has been on his North Node. People are getting more assertive and more direct with him because he is not either stable, consistent, or reliable. So there's a lot coming at him all at one time. You'd really have to sit down and look at the sinistry to determine like where the relationship is going. But I would say for your awareness, this is the grand finale as Saturn comes into conjunction with your Venus. This is about whether or not you're really going to stay together, stick it out, and have a serious conversation about staying together or further commitment, or whether or not you guys are going to go your separate ways. And that's because Saturn conjuncting your Venus is about kind of crystallizing or solidifying, relationship commitments. It's also going to square Saturn that is in your natal 5th house. So it's, can I still stay in love with this person? Can I be in love with this person? Can we have children? Are we not on the same page about kids? Are you afraid to leave the relationship because of children? Because Saturn's in your 5th house. Down the road, you'll see that this is going to be more challenging for both of you guys as the nodes next summer move to Libra and Aries, and they square Pluto. Because for some Cancer risings, a really difficult or a toxic relationship is almost like once the Pluto square happens, if you're not willingly making the changes, you're going to see that that relationship can be very detrimental to your future, especially your career or your home base, because of the way that it's going to square the nodes. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know what you've got going on here, but I look at this and I'm like, he's in for it between a Mercury retrograde in his 7th and also Mars in opposition to his Sun. Like something is not getting worked out for him, and he's resisting the need to be able to come into a relationship and be more reliable. And you're going to see this play out really until about March with that Mars square. But the Mercury retrograde is a definitive moment between now and the end of January to discuss whether or not this is actually working. And if it's not, then Pluto square Venus could be somebody kind of coming in for the kill shot and being like, yeah, this isn't working, I'm done. That is very possible. And it's a shame because it's really good sinistry. It's just really shitty timing. The timing of the astrology is not great. And in 2 years' time for a Sagittarius, when Saturn goes into Pisces, it's going to square all of these placements and it's going to be in his 9th house. It could mean that inevitably there is a legal separation down the road 2 years from now that can be avoided if you guys are able to get on the same page now, right? If you guys are married, and if you're not, it's still saying the same thing. There could be some kind of legal separation down the road. But this is all about awareness. And as the North Node comes into Aries, as Jupiter comes into Aries, as planets move into your 10th house, this is a 2-year period of you becoming more assertive and standing up for yourself more and being more direct with what you need. And Sun and Jupiter in the 7th house having some really strong opinions and people who need a lot of freedom and they like to control things. I would ask him if he's done any work in regards to the issues that he has with his father, because Sun, Uranus, South Node, Jupiter makes me feel like there was a lot of instability in the patterning that he had around men in his family and some hangups that are going on there. And he may be repeating some of those patterns because it's like coming out of him subconsciously. Hopefully that's helpful. All right, so we have got Christine. And yes, you are in here, Christine. Amanda, good luck, good luck, good luck. All right, just confirm this is correct. May 17th, 63 at 4:02 p.m. And that was in Boston. Cool. So you're Libra rising, Sun in Taurus, Mercury in Taurus, Moon in Pisces. And did you have any particular questions? I have your info. Let me know. Thank you, True. We got your info. I'll plug that in just a minute. I need your birth information, True. Your time, date, location, city. I need all of that. All right, so Christine Love has questions about love. So Pluto's coming into a square with your Venus, and you're a Libra rising, okay? So this is a really significant transit. I want you to think about 2019 and 2020, okay? Back then, you had Saturn going through Capricorn in your 4th house, and Saturn was squaring Venus in your 7th house. So as a Libra rising, there's a lot of focus on relationships for the first 30, 40 years of your life. And through those relationships, you learn a lot about yourself. With Pluto being in the 4th house of the home, the family, and the past, it's putting pressure on Venus right now. So you can see situations where old habits or emotional patterns are dying hard. You can also see that there's a need to change and transform your home life or your private life to make room for relationships. And it feels a little uncomfortable. The pinch is going to be quick though, because it's going to come into the square and then it's going to hit 29 degrees. That'll be in February. So Venus square Pluto or Pluto square Venus can be intense emotional exchanges, having a difficult time giving up the past, you know, healing old emotional wounds. And then we're going to have Jupiter go into Aries. You're going to have your Jupiter return in February, which is a good omen for relationships, especially athletic people, younger people, people who are culturally different, people who you meet while traveling or taking courses. Then you're going to see that the North Node moves into your 7th house. Jupiter's going to come into conjunction with your Venus, and there is going to be an eclipse between March and, let's say, September of next year. Significant changes in your relationships. When people ask me, when am I going to have a prominent relationship? I say, well, North Node in the 7th, Jupiter in the 7th, Venus conjunct Jupiter, North Node conjunct Jupiter. You're having all these things happen at the same time. The thing is that it's still squaring Pluto. So it's saying it's still trying to get you to make major changes in regards to your relationships, major changes in regards to your home, letting go of the past, being willing to live in new places, working on your emotions. Then you have Saturn on your moon. I don't know where you live, if you still have family or relatives, but sometimes Saturn on the moon brings you back home. And as you go home or you're around relatives, you may actually meet someone. That's the other way that I look at this. But Saturn on the moon is its own other thing that makes me feel like you're having to focus on emotions and your mood a little bit more. But Jupiter conjunct Venus tells me there's going to be a partner who's going to be around to help you do that, right? So yes, relationships are coming. Really look at that eclipse right around mid-April of 2023. It'll be 29 degrees of Aries. So it'll be right on top of your natal Venus, and it's on top of your vertex. So it's promising somebody's coming in. You'll see that unfold from April all the way through September. I do see that relationship being a prominent one. The only thing that I would say is that there is going to be a need to change and transform something about your home life or your private life. So the willingness to share space, to relocate, to have somebody move to be with you, that seems to be a theme because you have a completely different living situation and dynamic by the time you get to 2024. And Saturn on your moon would say that as well. Oh, so you just moved already. Okay, cool. A lot of my Libra risings are doing that. That's in preparation for what's coming. But I would say March, April, May is when somebody is likely to come in. And then you're going to be having your Juno return in the summer of 2024, which is about further kind of commitments in general. Just the Mercury retrograde right now is a bit of a doozy because it's going through your South Node. So this is about rest, recuperation, organization of the home. If you just moved, getting settled after just moving, dealing with family, home, and property dynamics. So it's going to be a lot because it's conjunct Pluto square your Venus. So in a way, it's almost like you're preparing your private life, your home life, everything in preparation for this new relationship that's coming in the spring, you know? New, Jupiter is new, North Node is new. So right now, the past and the future are duking it out in your chart because Pluto is sitting in your 4th house squaring Venus. So it's like saying like, oh, is there going to be somebody new? No, it's focusing on, it's somebody new, not the past in general. And for finances, Jupiter going into your 8th house and eclipses in your 8th house are receiving more from other people, right? So you have the opportunity to expand through other people and bring in more with resources. And Saturn is finally going to come out of an opposition with your Mars. So yeah, that's a well-welcomed change in terms of your money, but just be mindful that next year when Uranus squares your Mars and also your natal Saturn, there could be money that can come in, but you have to pay taxes on it. There could be more resources through inheritances, insurances, things like that. And then you'll really see that in 2024. Jupiter, Uranus on your Sun, square your Mars, and also square your natal Saturn. I think you're going to learn about investing, honestly, or stock exchange or trades or even cryptocurrencies. That might be something that you're looking at, and there could be like a big payoff in 2024. Okay? Hopefully that's helpful for you, Christine. All right, so let's see. Just got logged out of PayPal. Sorry, guys. I know we got a couple people here. I've got you, True. Okay, let's see. Like losing track of everybody. There's been so many people. Let's see. So we've got True, Alexis, and it looks like Reina slipped in there. Huh. Okay, well that's fine. All right, so Alexis, Reina, and True. All right, so let's take Alexis. Looks like I gotta plug you guys in really quick, so give me just a second. All right, 5481 for True. (12:11 p.m.) Houston, Texas. And then the other person, 5279. Okay, cool. So we have got Alexis and then Reina and then True. All right, so Alexis. Alexis says, my question is possible. What guidance would you suggest for 2023, especially around March? How are those Jupiter squares doing? Oh my gosh. Okay, so let's take a look. So asking about what I recommend for 2023, especially around March. Why do you say that? Because of the Mars on the ascendant, Saturn going into your 10th house, Pluto coming into conjunction with Neptune. Yeah, you got some stuff going on. You know, probably, I mean, the big thing is, yes, Saturn is changing signs. It's getting ready to go into your 10th house, Placidus, but for Cancer risings, you're going to hear it's your 9th house, which is about higher education, learning, traveling, and your philosophy. So to me, it looks like crazy, like maybe, you know, making changes in your education plan. I've had to drop out of university. It looks so interesting. Yeah. You may not really make your decision about university until Saturn hits your South Node, which won't be until 2024. So I look at this as like maybe you're taking a year off, and you probably will do that. You might travel or study something else, personally. You've got Jupiter that's squaring all of your angles right now too. So Jupiter that's in your whole sign 10th, it's squaring your ascendant and your descendant, and then you're going to have eclipses next year. It's trying to get you to think about working independently, doing your own thing, and what you're focusing on, and like being an entrepreneur or launching something. Then you've got Pluto coming into conjunction with your Neptune. So it's going to be more so in 2024, but still, I mean, it's going to be within a degree away of your Neptune and your Venus. So Venus rules your home, right? Neptune, in this case, rules your beliefs. So what you believe about, you know, where you're going to be living and what you want to spend money on, and like a huge change and transformation in terms of joint resources. So I feel like Pluto going into your 8th house, hitting Neptune and Venus, it can be that you're having your first run with credit cards, your first run with loans, you're learning how to be able to save money, you're learning how to invest money, things like that. I would take the year off just looking at the transits, because I think that if there's something that you want to try to pursue that's more creative and like relating to acting or the arts or whatever, do that. And then when Saturn's back in 2024, when Saturn hits your Jupiter and your South Node, if it's time to go back, you'll know at the beginning of 2024. But the Pluto transits are pretty gnarly. And Saturn in the 10th house of Pisces I could see is acting, but it's not just I'm acting, it's I'm going to acting lessons. I've got a coach. I am working with a group of people. I am doing my headshots, doing all of my acting reels. Like it's like more than just that. The 9th house makes me feel like you need some kind of actual professional training, working with a group, and maybe even traveling to do that potentially as well. You know what I'm saying? I think that's definitely where this is going. And with Jupiter going into your 11th house, and the North Node sitting on your Saturn, you do need to join a collective group. So even more so of a reason to kind of work with a group of professionals and to kind of spearhead doing that ASAP. Why else would... I mean, the spring in 2023, that's where all the action is, right? Saturn changing sign, Pluto changing sign. But you're also going to see Jupiter come into conjunction with Saturn. I didn't finish my theater degree. Yeah, I mean, listen, you know, you don't really have to figure this out until Saturn is crossing your sun. So if you decide you're going to take a year and try to make it work on your own, and if you can, great. And if you can't swing it, Saturn coming back in 2024, hitting your sun and also your Mercury and coming for your 10th house is going to be the time. But I will tell you, like Jupiter, South Node, Sun, Mercury, all in your 10th house. I mean, you could do acting work. You could, especially because it's all going to involve your 7th house Lord. So good management is really important in this next year for you. It's very, very important. Yeah. Besides that, I would say the eclipses that are going to start happening are something else that I would look into. So the eclipse is happening in Aries in your 11th house. The eclipse is happening in Libra in your 5th house. Becoming a part of a group and nurturing your natal talents, right? Being able to work with other people. So not just acting on your own, but acting with other people, joining different types of, theatrical groups to be able to kind of network and meet other people who are trying to do the same thing as you. Hopefully that's helpful for you. And go and learn about Pluto coming into conjunction with Neptune, because this is about debt and loans and credit cards and getting serious about what you're willing to spend on this stuff. And go and learn about Pluto coming into conjunction with Venus, because that's going to be about how much money you're willing to invest into some of this stuff to make this work, and how much money you give to other people. If you take on an agent, what they get if you end up booking something, right? Hopefully that's helpful. Okay, so we've got Reina. Reina, thank you for your patience. I don't know why we can't see you, but I'm glad you sent me another message. I've got you here September 17th, 78. She said, okay, well, there was not a question. That's why I said, what is your question? And give me your information. So I'm going to have to give you a general reading because I did not get that from you. I have you here as a Cancer rising, and your sun is in Virgo, and your moon is in Aries. So new moon in your 7th house, new opportunities for relationships right along your descendant, setting the stage for connecting with new people. But it's in a square to your moon, so there is a bit of frustration. Jupiter on your moon. Jupiter on the moon right now is really good for work and relationships and collaborations with people professionally. Perhaps the new moon is prompting that, where you're like looking to get guidance or looking to collaborate with relationships, or you're looking for love and you're wanting to feel like you're actually like making things happen. Like there is like not an impatience, but like a need for everything to be new in the relationship and also the career zone right now. So that energy is really heated with the squares between the 7th and the 10th house. I'm also noticing Neptune coming into opposition with your sun. So this is going to bring up some kind of like, what am I supposed to be doing? What is my purpose? What's going on with me work-wise? And then Neptune is going to start to sit on your south node. So while Jupiter is bringing in all the goodies of new opportunities, Neptune is saying, we're going to wash some stuff away. This is really significant in March and in April, just a heads up. But if you're looking for more like what's going on with relationships, Mercury retrograde in your 7th, reevaluating what's important to you, what you value in relationships, giving you the opportunity to kind of speak from the heart with those trines to your sun and north node, and also like just express how you're really feeling. You might get a lot of feedback from family or from friends, or there can be an opportunity to kind of like socialize with people who you haven't seen for some time. And have like a soundboard for any relationship issues that you're having in general, right? I also think that, for the sextiles to be happening to your natal Venus Uranus, it's great for opportunities in romance and sudden chances and connections with people. You're really feeling the ouch though right now with Pluto coming into a square with Mars. So it's a lot of like, I need love. Where is this person? What's going on? And there can be some tension and some frustration and some back and forth and some jealousy because you're going to be seeing that Venus and Pluto and Mercury are all going to come together, and they're going to square your Mars in the 5th house. 5th house is the love that you have to give. And you're like, hi, I need more. What's going on? Where are my people? For all the Cancer risings, I've said the same thing. Watch for difficult relationships where you're not getting what you need, because it's going to keep coming up, especially next summer. If you're involved in a relationship where somebody is taking away from your authority or your ability to kind of determine what direction you're going in your life, It's a really big theme, especially July. So for those of you guys who have been unwilling to kind of let something go, that could be a theme then, just a heads up. I would learn about Neptune coming into opposition with your sun, because it's learning how to communicate differently and feeling like you're being seen and you're being heard. And as that's starting to kind of sextile to, it's still in a sextile to Pluto in your 7th house, it's about having more clarity also about who you're partnering with out in the world and not feeling like you're having to second guess things. So people you're working for, clients you have, relationships that you're in, things like that. And this Mars retrograde that's currently going on is going retrograde back and forth in a square to your natal sun, squaring the nodes. So you're like, I'm hiding out, I'm retreating, I feel like being alone, you know, I'm having a difficult time not being seen or not being heard. And it's going to keep scoring until about March. So when Mars comes out of your 12th house and it starts moving into Cancer, you're going to feel like you have a lot more energy and vitality. And it's going to be a couple months of just kind of being in your cocoon phase, reevaluating things and getting ready to start something new. But an extended Mars retrograde in your 12th can be about healing, honestly. It can be about healing. That's generally what happens here. Hopefully that's helpful for you. Thank you for circling back around. I appreciate it. What's up, Echoist? Echoist said, is Texas still on the table? I live here now. I moved this last week. Okay, so let's pull up True. And let's see. Okay, so there's you, who you broke up with. What do you see for the next year for love and work? Anything else that stands out? Well, you're asked a sinistry question. So yeah, you guys broke up, but you've got Pluto coming up on your descendant and it's opposing his moon and Jupiter. So that in itself can be an indication that there's a separation as a result of not seeing eye to eye about like beliefs. At one point, yeah, the moon Jupiter feels really good on the ascendant, but as you're growing or they're needing more independence or they're resisting change, it makes it more difficult for you guys to connect, you know? And Saturn is finally leaving your 7th house. And it's going through his IC. So, you know, for him to be a Scorpio rising, Saturn in the 4th house means he needs to be alone. He's going to feel like he needs to really be alone until about February or March. He needs to move through emotional blocks or issues in terms of being able to communicate and tell other people what he needs, right? Working through past issues. For a Taurus and a Leo rising Taurus sign, oh my goodness. I mean, Saturn going through your 7th house, it's squaring your natal Uranus, which is conflicts emotionally that's stirring. It's squaring Venus, which is about relationships. It's almost like you have to put him on back burner and get him out of the way so you can have clarity about what direction you're going in with your career. North Node's moving through your 10th. For him, it's the opposite. It's so weird, right? It's complete opposite for Scorpio rising because Scorpio rising have eclipses in their 7th house. They have Saturn in their 4th. Scorpio risings are going to have the easiest time. They're going to learn the most. They're going to expand the most by committing to relationships, playing house, focusing on their partner, and building a foundation, right? But they're resisting that because they're stubborn. You've got yourself also double fixed, Leo rising, Taurus sun. Where you're having the most growth is focusing on having a career, focusing on being in charge, building a legacy, being out in the world, and joining with people who are saying, yes, what do you need? Let me help you. Let's work together, right? Saturn in the 7th. Usually as Saturn transits through the 7th, it'll have one good rock'em sock'em relationship. Can people stay together through it? Yeah, I've seen people stay together through it married, but it's not always easy. But it does sometimes end with breaking it off with somebody and then somebody comes in, right? Saturn won't leave your 7th house until March. So the fact that Saturn is still there makes me feel like Saturn trine Juno, maybe this is the experience that you guys both needed. You're like, hey, I need somebody who can show up and I really need to focus on where I'm going. And maybe, you know, he needs to be left alone to kind of realize what he had. Not easy for Scorpio rising though. That Saturn through the IC transit does sometimes materialize as depression. And, you know, it's interesting because you guys have so many placements in common, right? He has to be the one to do the work though. And I think when I look at your chart, I mean, career is like full steam ahead, especially with eclipses in the spring in your 10th house. Jupiter's going into your 10th house. Jupiter is going to come into conjunction with his Venus and his Mercury and his Mars. And there is room to renegotiate relationships once he's feeling better and he's worked out his stuff, especially April, May. But for you right now, it's all about, okay, through this retrograde, you know, how can I get into a healthier habit? What's going to work for me? How is my workflow going? How is my diet and my health and my fitness? You've got Mars that is also moving through Gemini. So it's trying to get you to like socialize more and connect with friends and do things and realize that it doesn't just have to be about your relationships. And when you come out of that, you're also going to see, just like in the summer next year, lots of opportunities to focus more on self-love. A Venus retrograde there, plenty of planets going through your 10th house, squaring your first, going through your first house, squaring your 10th. So you're gonna get a lot of attention. Like, I don't know what you got going on work or career-wise, but that seems to be the most important thing right now, as much as I hate to say that. It's all about what you're working and what you're building and what you're creating. And if he's not ready to meet you there, then yeah, turn him loose during his Saturn transit. It's the best thing you can do. And then you're going to have Saturn going into your 8th house. So it's going to be about peace. It might be a little bit about celibacy. It might be a little bit about detoxing, you know, healthy stuff, focusing more on emotional stability, things like that. But I don't really see a job change happening unless during the Mercury retrograde, you choose to change jobs. To me, it seems like it's more up to you, right? If you can make a scheduling shift, if you can make a department shift, if you can make a tweak. I don't see a job ending. But I will say, hold on, let me just pull your chart up here, that when the Sun and Pluto comes together, that's a day that I would watch. So the Sun and Pluto are going to come together right around January 17th, 18th, because the Sun rules your chart. It's going to come in conjunction with Pluto, and it's also going to start trining Chiron and Venus, right? Yeah, bumping heads of people at work is kind of expected with the Mercury retrograde, especially for a Leo rising. But I feel like if you can get through that, and if you can get through like the mid-January period, things get easier. Especially because the Sun's going to trine the North Node in Uranus in the process. So that's like saying like, okay, let's get more help. Let's have meetings. Let's bring other people in. Like, let's stick to a schedule. And you're going to have another opportunity to change jobs, but that's not going to be until May of next year. And that'll be in your 10th house. And I think that's more about accepting like a higher position, or a position that's going to pay more, or you're going to have more responsibility. That's going to be going on the end of April of 2023. Personally, if you can get through this period in December, January, it's worth it, because you're going to start getting the recognition that you deserve, or you're going to see that there's going to be a change in your status then, right? But yeah, for the most part, with that Scorpio rising, let him be until February. And he'll be more so capable of being in a partnership, but it won't be until about April or May. And it's like, he needs to do the emotional work, you need to do the physical work. So you guys are not on the same wavelength right now. Both of you guys have to do your separate stuff. Hopefully that is helpful for you. Just making sure I got everybody. Reina, Alexis, Christine, Amanda. Yeah, I think that's everybody. Just make sure. Got true. Okay, yeah, we are good. Thank you guys for staying. It was a long one. But I've been away for a week, so I expected it. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. If you haven't already, give me a thumbs up. We have Astro Weather coming out tomorrow, and tomorrow we're going to be talking all about the Mercury retrograde that's starting, some of the transits happening throughout the week. It's a quieter week, and you guys will hear my spiel tomorrow, so you can check that out. I'm also going to be putting out a video on New Year's Day. We're going to talk about the astrology of 2023. So if you guys want to join me, please do. I'd love to hang out with you on New Year's Day. Otherwise, have a happy holiday, a Merry Christmas to those of you guys who celebrate, and everybody who's getting ready for the new year. I will be back next week. We're going to do live tarot. It will also be on Friday, just trying to be respectful of the holidays. I will let you go and enjoy the rest of your weekend. Take care.